Good evening. I call the Calvert County Board of Education meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Which one are you pulling up first?
Softball? Yeah.
Ladies first. All right.
I call the Huntingtown High School softball team. Come on up to the front of the room.
Everybody here? All right. Whereas the Huntingtown High School softball team won the 2025 Maryland 2A softball state championship, and whereas the team competed against 46 other Maryland high schools and completed the season with a record of 22 wins and 3 losses, and whereas the team won the Maryland 2A South Regional Championship, and whereas the team won the 6th softball state championship in the 21-year history of Huntington High School. And whereas the team is coached by head coach Mike Johnson, assistant coaches Johnny Griever, Jen Howe, and Daniel Kirchhoffer. Hope I didn't make that too bad. And whereas the Huntingtown High School softball team represented the Huntingtown High School with a high degree of sportsmanship and fair play, and whereas their success is attributed to the teamwork and the dedication by all the members of the softball team at Huntingtown High School, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Calvert County commend the families, the team, and the coaches for an outstanding year, which resulted in amazing achievements, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby extends their congratulations and wish the team success in their future.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
I don't want to be. You go. I don't want to be.
You go first.
Oh, I don't. How close? We just wanted to say thank you to everybody for everything. That's it.
I just wanted to take a minute to certainly congratulate this accomplishment. It's such an honor to be standing here today as the principal of Huntingtown High with 2 state championships. You know, I walked with the softball, and then we're going to also celebrate the baseball team. And it's kind of hard for me to separate them because they supported each other through this whole process. They were at each other's games. They were cheering each other on, and it was just it was just so wonderful to experience. And, you know, I'll say this, you know, people worry about and say things about young people, but I'm letting you know right now, standing before you today, right now, and who you're going to see in a minute, we're in good shape. These are great young people and great leaders. I'm really proud of you, and I know how hard you worked. All right, thank you.
Once you get up in the front, get next back north. There you go. Scoot down, scoot down.
He slept on it wrong. Can I invite the baseball team to come forward, please?
Huntingtown Colors, come on.
All right, whereas the Huntingtown High School baseball team won the 2025 Maryland 2A Baseball State Championship, and whereas the team competed against 46 other Maryland high schools and completed the season with a record of 22 wins and 3 losses, and whereas the team won the Southern Maryland Athletic Conference Championship, and whereas the team won the second baseball state championship in the 21-year history of Huntingtown High School, and whereas the team is coached by head coach Guy Smith, assistant coaches Nate Orlandi, Corey Wargo, Bobby Kessler, Ian Schwallenberg, Nick Gardner, and Ryan Lauer. And whereas the Huntingtown High School baseball team represented Huntingtown High School with a high degree of sportsmanship and fair play. And whereas their success is attributed to the teamwork and dedication by all members of the baseball team at Huntingtown High School. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Calvert County commend the families and coaches for an outstanding year which resulted in the amazing achievements, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby extends their congratulations and wish the team success in their future.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Who wants to speak?
First, I want to thank the board members for allowing us to come down and be recognized our teams today. Also, before we get out, I want to thank Miss Maxey. Miss Maxey, you never get credit where credit is due. This lady's been there with me since I started as an athletic director and made sure that we always made sure the kids came first in Calvert County Public Schools. And I know you're going to retire, you told me. So right now, I think we need to give her applause because see what she does for us. Thank you.
I just want to thank the parents too as well. We have a lot here, but a lot at home. The support that you were giving the kids, we have some amazing kids. So I really want to thank you guys for the support. Our administration, they're at all of our games. Our principal comes to random places and comes to games that isn't normal, that she's really supportive of the kids. And I want to thank also the kids, the players. I want to thank them. There's 8 seniors that left here. When they came in as seniors, they didn't love me. But when they left, right, my parents are shaking their head like, yeah, it was. So they built me, we built them, we came together, and 8 guys that are leaving our program with state championships worked really, really hard along with the other kids coming back. So when these kids come in, it's a lot of tough love, but when they leave, hopefully they can hug it out, and we do when we won, so it was exciting. And I thank the board members, a lot of people here taking their time for us that have been in education, so thank you guys.
I'll be real quick. Again, I just want to, of course, thank the board members and everyone for having us here today. Again, these kids, they work so hard, and this team, I swear it was a nail biter that day at the game, but I was so proud of them. They just so determined, came up on top, and again, both teams, they supported each other, and it just shows you what a strong, wonderful county we live in and what a great school Huntingtown High is. So congratulations, guys. I'm going to miss all the seniors, but congratulations.
How you doing? Good to see you, man. All right, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve Marcus J. Newsome as our interim superintendent.
Second.
Dr. Marcus J. Newsome is a veteran educator and award-winning superintendent with over 30 years of experience in public education. He has served as superintendent in 3 school districts, including Newport News Public Schools, where all high schools were recognized among Newsweek's best high schools in America, and Chesterfield County Public Schools, honored at the White House as a national leader in digital learning. His leadership in Petersburg City Public Schools is featured in the internationally acclaimed documentary, Petersburg Rising. Dr. Newsome is the founder of the Virginia Superintendent's Leadership Academy, providing professional development for school leaders. He currently serves as a president of the National Bible College and Seminary, and as a senior advisor with Benchmark Education. He has authored 3 books on educational leadership and crisis management, and held academic appointments at Harvard University, Virginia Commonwealth University, and Virginia State University. Dr. Newsome holds doctorates in educational leadership and Christian education and has been recognized with numerous national awards for innovation, mentorship, and community service. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're very excited. Dr. Newsome, welcome. Come on up.
Thank you, Ms. Post, for the standing ovation and for that kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. I did have prepared written comments, but I see that there are so many people here tonight who are invested in this school district that I'm going to save those comments and ask that you post them on the website. I would, though, like to share my appreciation to the board chair, vice chair, and all of the board members for engaging me in a very rigorous process that has led to this day. My family and I chose to live in Calvert County several years ago because of the reputation of this school district. We have 3 grandchildren. One just graduated from Northern High School. One is going to middle school, leaving Mount Harmony, and the other is about 2 years away from starting pre-kindergarten. So we are vested in this community, and there just so happened to be a need for an interim superintendent, and I had a need to serve this county, not just for my children, but for every child. My priorities are, number 1, making sure that our children are safe. Number 2, striving for academic excellence. Number 3, accountability and transparency. And number 5, making sure that I lay the groundwork in partnership with the board to bring you your long-term superintendent within a year from now who will take this school district to the next level. And lastly, my commitment is to make every decision that is in the best interest of children. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next meeting agenda, I just do want to remind everyone that this meeting is a space for respectful and constructive dialogue. And to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be present in this room, we respectfully ask the following: that speakers, when your time comes at the end of the night, to please adhere to the limits for public comment, to refrain from interruptions such as shouting, clapping, cheering, or other disruptive behavior, as it will not be tolerated. And please silence mobile devices and avoid side conversations while the folks up here are speaking. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 5-0. Next, we have our action items, and up first, we have our policies for review. And I will say, bear with us all, because we do have a new system in place, and some of the links were working, not working, so Ms. Maxey has been working very hard, along with other staff, to get that situated. The first policy that we have on up for review is policy 1018, and that is the anti-racism policy. This policy was initially asked to be brought out of the normal timeline of when it was reviewed, and so that the board members could have a conversation, so that we had some time after we have reviewed the policy and what we know has been public. And after some of my own personal thoughts, I am, at this time, going to make a motion to repeal the anti-racism policy.
Second.
Thank you. I would like to be sure and make it clear that we have a discrimination policy in place that covers all forms of illegal discrimination. So having a separate anti-racism policy is redundant, first and foremost, but second, it sends the message that we are elevating one form of discrimination over all of the other forms of discrimination, and that simply is not the fact. All illegal forms of discrimination we recognize, and we want to make sure that we are adhering to all of the laws at all times. Any other
We can all-
comments?
yes.
Sorry.
We can all agree that racism in any form is wrong and cannot be tolerated. Since the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, all forms of racism and discrimination have been against the law. At the state level, the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights investigates and enforces anti-racism and anti-discrimination laws. And the Maryland State Board of Education and COMAR have well-established anti-racism and anti-discrimination policies and regulations that are strictly enforced across all school districts. Additional policies are redundant. Thank you.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This decision will be posted for 30 days for public comment. Thank you. Up next, we have policy 1460, child abuse and neglect, and I invite Ms. Cecilia Lewis forward. So Karen, this is the one that the link is, it just shows the PDF, not the Word. Oh, it's, okay. Okay. Okay, let me refresh.
Good evening, President Post and all members of the Board of Education. I'm Cecilia Lewis, Director of Student Services. Today, I'm presenting additional proposed updates to Policy 1460 regarding the Maryland Child Abuse and Neglect Law and Calvert County Public Schools. These updates are in response to the Board of Education's requests following the presentation of this policy on May 8, 2025. The purpose of this policy is to protect Calvert County Public School students who are victims of child abuse and neglect. It also serves to inform employees, contractors, and volunteers of their legal obligation to report suspected child abuse and neglect to local departments of social services or a local law enforcement agency, and their immunity from civil liability or criminal penalty in making such a report. The updated recommendations are outlined in a new section that was added, now labeled as Section 4, which highlights the scope of suspected abuse and neglect investigations. This section describes CCPS cooperation with the Department of Social Services and all applicable law enforcement agencies, and the process for addressing allegations or abuse and neglect that involves a school system employee, contractor, or volunteer. The second and final recommendation is to add the federal law 34 U.S. Code 20341 to the citations. This law mandates that individuals who learn of suspected child abuse or neglect must report it to designated agencies. Since the additional sections are quite lengthy, I request that you reference it. It was sent to you previously, but anyone, as far as public, they can reference that on the website, and I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Ms. Lewis, in the policy, it states when parents are going to be notified. I know that when people read this for the first time, they might be concerned that they're not first to be notified. Can you just explain why, in these cases, a parent might be notified a little bit later in the process?
Sure. So our scope of responsibility is actually quite limited as school employees, and that's because of the nature of the allegations. And we would not, in many cases, if the parent or guardian is the alleged abuser, we would not contact them, because what happens is there's a handoff to the agency, Department of Social Services. They are responsible for that investigative piece, and we would not want to impede that investigation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Comments?
So when I know when I was onboarded, we had quite a few training videos. Is there something specifically to look at what might be abusive characteristics or things that I did not remember? I took 8 hours of training.
Yes.
I don't remember if that was in there.
We do have an extensive training on child abuse and neglect through our Safe Schools modules, and it does identify potential characteristics and things too that might notify you of potential child abuse or neglect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Lewis. This policy will be posted for 30 days.
Thank you.
Up next, policy for review 1760, professional boundaries. Dr. Susan Johnson.
Good evening, Mrs. Post and members of the Board of Education. I am Dr. Susan Johnson, the Chief Operations Officer. I'll be presenting 3 policies in a row for you tonight. The first policy is policy 1760 regarding professional interactions between Calvert County Public School employees, volunteers, and students. Policy 1760 was shared in May, and based on feedback from board members, legal counsel, and the community, the following adjustments have been made. So the definition of professional interactions, I believe, was updated to ensure that maintaining appropriate communication through approved channels and ensuring interactions are related to educational purposes is clear. And then in the policy statement, you'll see that some language was taken out, and then some language was added. So the policy statement reads now, CCPS is committed to fostering an environment where staff-student relationships are based on mutual respect and trust. Employees and volunteers are expected to maintain professional boundaries with students at all times, including but not limited to during school and school-related activities. The language goes on to say adhering to appropriate physical, verbal, and digital communication practices. Additional language was added. Nothing in this policy is intended to intrude upon typical family and community-related activities where, for example, the employee is involved in community activities or the employee's own children invite friends to their home. Additionally, language was added under acceptable behaviors. The Roman numeral 2, ensure the safety and integrity of all interactions with students by observing the rule of 2. In-person interactions, a student and a second adult should be present whenever meeting with a student. If that is not possible, meetings should take place in public or observable locations, such as an office with open door, glass walls, or common areas. Electronic communications Letter B, when engaging with students via CCPS-approved methods, email, messaging platforms, video conferencing, or other digital tools, another adult, e.g. a colleague, supervisor, or group participant, should be included in the conversation or copied on the communication when feasible. And then as we go to unacceptable behaviors, employees and volunteers shall not, you'll see the update, Roman numeral 2, privately communicate with students through personal social media accounts or via personal text messaging. Roman numeral 3, employees should generally refrain from sharing the intimate personal details about their own private lives with students except as reasonably necessary. For example, it may be appropriate for a teacher to disclose to the class that the teacher will be absent for maternity leave or for surgery. And Roman numeral 5, meet in one-on-one situations in or outside of school with students other than family members unless the job responsibilities require one-on-one meetings, such as pupil personnel workers, school psychologists, counselors, nurses, administrators, safety advocates, or parental or guardian written consent has been obtained. Moving on to reporting and investigation, letter A, staff members are mandatory reporters and must report any inappropriate relationship between employees or volunteers and students to the Department of Social Services and their direct supervisor, see policy 1460. And then the citations at the bottom were just updated to ensure that they were in appropriate reading order. And those are the updates.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Is there any discussion or any questions?
No, I really appreciate the updates with it. It protects our staff, it protects our students, and it protects our system as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, will be posted for up to 30 days. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Next is, sorry, 1940.
Our next policy is 1940. Regarding political neutrality. Originally, the language, I believe in the May meeting, was combined with a current policy that we have, which was 1020 regarding political activity on school property. Following comments and references and speaking with legal counsel, 1020 will remain the same as it currently is written, and 1940 becomes a new policy, and it was developed in this format. So I'm going to read it just so the public hears it. The purpose, this policy aims to create a respectful and distraction-free educational setting for all students by ensuring that the Calvert County Public Schools, as a public school system dedicated to teaching and learning, remains neutral on political issues, parties, and candidates, and to further ensure that neither students nor employees are pressured, coerced, or obligated to endorse political viewpoints or contribute to or render service for a political candidate or party by requiring employees to remain neutral on political issues, parties, and candidates during classroom instruction and avoid discussion of such issues during instruction unless and to the extent that the discussions and any related activities are aligned with the approved curriculum by allowing and facilitating student expression on their own viewpoints on political issues, parties, and candidates in a respectful and non-disruptive manner, and by prohibiting employees from engaging in political activity while on the job during work hours. The policy statement reads, participation in politics or political campaigns and the free expression of diverse political opinions by employees of this state or of any county, municipal, corporation, city, political subdivision, public authority, body, political, or Board of Education is integral to the continuation of the freedoms enshrined in the Constitution of the United States and shall not be prohibited. To that end, each employee shall retain all rights and obligations of citizenship provided in the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and of the state of Maryland. However, no such employee shall engage in political activity while on the job during work hours, advocate the overthrow of the government by unconstitutional and violent means, be obligated to contribute or render political service during work hours, engage in the discussion of political issues, parties, candidates, unless to the extent that such discussions and any related activities are aligned with the approved curriculum, engage in a captive audience classroom discussion of the employees' viewpoints on political issues, parties, and candidates, and prevent non-disruptive student expression of student viewpoints on political issues, parties, and candidates. Student expression. Students retain their rights to free expression, provided it does not disrupt the educational environment or infringe upon the rights of others in accordance with the existing CCPS policies. Enforcement. Violations of this policy may result in disciplinary action consistent with the CCPS employee conduct guidelines. Delegation of authority. The superintendent of schools is directed to develop administrative procedures to implement this policy in accordance with all local policies, local, state, and federal laws and regulations, and to communicate this policy and accompanying procedures to all relevant parties. And there are no exceptions to this policy. However, the board may vote to temporarily suspend all or part of this policy. Suspension of all or part of this policy, however, in no way relieves the board of its obligation to comply with the pertinent local, state, and federal laws and regulations or rules and regulations of the Maryland State Board of Education and the Maryland State Department of Education. And the appropriate citations were listed at the bottom.
Thank you. Any comments, questions for Dr. Johnson?
Just to be clear, outside of work, every employee still has the right to engage in political activities as private citizens, but during the school day and in their professional roles, it's essential that we remain focused on creating a safe, nonpartisan environment for learning and growth. It's about protecting the purpose, professionalism, and unity of our school system. So thank you.
Any other discussion?
That purpose, that first sentence, that's one sentence, is that right? That's the longest sentence. That's Guinness Book of World Records stuff. Can we cut that into two pieces, maybe?
We certainly can look at that for you, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. This will be posted for up to 30 days. I'm going to remind everybody there's a lot of conversation happening. It's very distracting, so please refrain from conversation or you will be asked to leave. Thank you. Up next, 1945, flags in schools.
Yes, 1945 was a new policy presented in May. Staff incorporated feedback from the community and Board of Ed members and legal counsel. So the updates to the May policy include the policy statement where you will see that there were, the American flag shall be displayed on the grounds of every school and in every classroom. It's been limited to every classroom, stadium, and auditorium based on the feedback that what constitutes a student-focused place. And then if you go to the bottom where it says standard and guidelines, such flags are used as part of a temporary display as opposed to unit of study. And then the appropriate citations were notated.
Any questions, comments?
The flags listed represent the governmental bodies that serve and unite our entire community, regardless of individual background, beliefs, or perspectives. Limiting displayed flags to these official symbols ensures that our schools remain neutral spaces focused on education, not on promoting or appearing to endorse any particular political, ideological, or social viewpoints. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Dr. Johnson. This will be posted for up to 30 days as well. Up next, I invite Mr. Scott Johnson and policy 5520, the fund balance.
Good evening, President Post, members of the board. My name is Scott Johnson. I serve as the district's chief financial officer. This evening, I'll present 3 policies for board consideration. The first policy is on fund balance, and this is a new policy, a variation of which was discussed at the May 22 board meeting. The language in the policy statement on page 2 has been modified somewhat since a previous version in an attempt to clarify the allocation of the unassigned fund balance for healthcare, utilities, and transportation fuel. Be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson? Mr. Harrison?
Hi, how are you, Scott? I was going to ask, we are planning to pull 17 million out of fund balance for FY25. Is that still the right number?
I'm expecting that we will use less of that, deplete less of that because of significant underspending in FY25.
Okay. And is our objective, I think one of the comments was that we would maintain 2 months' worth of fund balance as a best practice. Is that still your understanding?
This policy actually sets a 5% cap on the unassigned fund balance.
So that would be roughly 15 million on a $288 million budget. Is that right?
A little less than that, yes.
Okay. And how, with just 15 million, that does not cover us for a month of operating expenses. Do you think that's a reasonable number?
My personal preference would be to have a fund balance target rather than a fund balance cap.
And is 5% the right target, or should it be 8.3 to cover 1 month, or 16.7 to cover 2 months? What do you think?
GFOA recommends 2 months, at least 2 months. However, one consideration is our revenue is typically pretty stable, although for last fiscal year, we did obviously have a pretty big reduction in revenue, so that was definitely, it was definitely very fortunate for the district to have a strong fund balance for that.
So that's why I'm getting at if, I mean, you know the flows better than you in the mix every day. I just want to make sure that we're not under planning with this policy. And I think we are under planning.
I would certainly support a target rather than a cap. In a version, the most recent version received in the most recent version that was received, a language was included regarding a fund balance cap for unassigned fund balance.
I'm thinking more, instead of a cap, more of a bottom. Like, what should be our minimum amount of fund balance? And I think it should be maybe closer to 8.3 for at least 1 month, and then we can revisit it as we go through the FY26 budget. Is that
Do we
fair?
look at it as a minimum of that 8.3 to cover the month with a target of the
Yeah,
2
I mean,
months?
I would be
Minimum
comfortable
of a
with that,
month,
yeah.
target of a 2 month.
Right.
That's probably
that sounds
more
right.
reasonably and responsible.
So can you make some edits to this and send it back to Ms. Maxey?
Sure,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
I could just have one, so sorry. So this is specifically talking about the unassigned fund balance, but the fund balance, as you can see in the definition, there's lots of different parts. Are there other places within fund balance that do have money set aside for salaries, if that's the concern? Because this is specifically unassigned fund balance.
There are there are formal fund balance commitments for a variety of purposes, and that variety of purposes was expanded by the board a few months ago, including healthcare, utilities, transportation fuel, and approximately 8 to 12 other categories.
But at 1/3 of 1%, I mean, that's kind of chicken scratch, I think, right? I just want to make sure that we're adequately funded, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
no,
don't
it's,
think that's a right
seems a
number
little
either.
low and dangerous.
Now, in our contract, for example, let's talk about healthcare. So in our contract with Care First, they are an administrator of a plan, right, as we direct them. So if they were to lose money, we were on the hook for that money. Is that correct?
We're self-insured for health and dental and vision insurance.
Right.
So.
So you think
depending on the
1/3 of
claims-
1% is a good number? That seems kind of high risk to me.
Looking at the district from which this language, I believe, came from, I think there was, in that particular district, I believe that they did not have or do not have a fund balance commitment for healthcare. And as I interpret the policy, I believe that the intent of their policy, and from which this language came from, much of it anyway, called for adding to the fund balance commitment, although in that district, they don't actually formally commit the funds for that.
Entertain me here. So when we had, and Dr. Johnson, thank you for that number you gave me at the last meeting, 484,000 was the rebate that we got from Care First, correct? So why would we not take that money and put it towards a healthcare fund, reserve fund, so that in years where it's not in our favor, we would be able to take that money from that fund instead of mixing it all with operating?
Ultimately, it is applied to the employee insurance, employee retirees, and if sufficient funds are, or when sufficient funds are accumulated, I believe that's now between $800,000 and $900,000, then a premium holiday is provided for 1 month for retirees and employees for health insurance, health, dental, and vision, I believe.
Okay, so I think the number that we got in FY '24 was 1.8 million. Did we rebate, or did we take the holiday on those premiums in FY '24?
It was added to the cumulative amount, and the district did rebate, refund, or actually have the premium holiday. I just don't recall if it was FY '24.
Okay.
But it was one recent fiscal year.
All right.
So we'll make some edits. You'll send it back to Ms. Maxey, and we'll post it for review. Thank you. The next one is policy 1515, budget transfers.
Thank you. The proposed policy would require board approval for 3 types of budget transfers. One would be all inter-category budget transfers, regardless of the amount. And 2 would be all intra-category budget transfers that would increase or decrease the total amount budgeted in any budget category. And the third, actually not type, but the third significant change would be requiring that a report be provided to the Board of Education each month in which any budget transfers were made the prior month.
Any questions or comments?
Now, are we, as a practical matter, it seemed as though when we were preparing the FY '26 budget, were you taking the same approach as FY '25? Were you building in certain cushion into certain categories?
The FY '26 includes significantly less budget contingency.
Okay.
So it's definitely a more.
So what? So does this policy impact your ability to manage that money or those contingencies well?
It would positively impact it, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. It'll be posted for up to 30 days.
Thank you.
Next, we have policy 5600, travel reimbursement. Is this one you? You were trying to get out of here fast. One more.
Thank you. This policy includes proposed changes. One is a reference to COMAR, and the second is new language that regarding exercising sound judgment and fiscal responsibility. And this will be expanded upon in the to be recommended administrative guidelines next month.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I have one more, I'm sorry. All right. We just did this at my other job, where we've put the travel reimbursement process online. So we've been doing paper packets for 190 years. So is that something that falls under you, the electronic reimbursement cycle, or are you still requiring paper?
We still require paper, although we are looking at streamlining various business processes. This is one that we're looking at.
So do we have the system capacity or software to do that, or is this just time, or what do you need to do that?
Well, I'm meeting with a vendor on Wednesday. I've met with a vendor approximately 3 weeks ago regarding this and planning to continue the discussion with a vendor regarding the possibility of using software from a third party. However, there may be another approach too, so I'll know more after.
So you're really limited by your ERP. You're limited by the ledger and what it can accommodate. Is that right?
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with that because there are ways in which other software can be used to for people to submit forms, for instance, Adobe fillable forms, pictures of receipts without a different ERP or modification.
I mean, is it something we could do as something as rudimentary as attach the reimbursement as a PDF to an email and send it to a specific email account?
It's possible. We're looking at some alternatives, but yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This policy will also be posted for up to 30 days. Up next, we have bid approvals, and I invite Mr. Sheldon Taylor forward.
Good evening, President Post, members of the board. My name is Sheldon Taylor. I'm the Supervisor of Finance and Procurement. Today I have 4 recommendations for your consideration. Joining me first is Ms. Cecilia Lewis, Director of Student Services, for the recommendation to purchase college planning and preparation services to support our school district. Pursuant to CCPS Policy 5510, board approval is required for this purchase between $25,000 and $50,000, and at minimum, 3 competitive quotes are necessary. Upon review by Student Services, it was determined that Chesapeake College Plan LLC provided the district with the best value for college planning and preparation services. The funding for this purchase will be through the Student Services budget. We respectfully request that the board award the purchase of college planning and preparation services to Chesapeake College Plan LLC of Prince Frederick, Maryland for $45,424. This award will support the school district for the FY26 school year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Yes. So, hi, Mr. Taylor. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
Can you tell me how is this touching? What is the service point to the student with the software?
So it's not a software, it's actually a service that's provided by a team. And the service point is related to providing FAFSA, so the federal student loan and aid system. So it's directly aligned to our state statute and legislation. It's the Educational Article 7212, which provides support for students to complete the FAFSA as well as the Maryland FAFSA. And in that legislation, which I shared for your reference, it outlines that each county board shall encourage and assist as many high school seniors as possible in completing and submitting a FAFSA or an MSFAA, which is the Maryland State Financial Aid Application, if they are ineligible to complete a FAFSA by the deadline for eligibility for state financial aid set by the Maryland Higher Education Commission. This article further goes into an outreach plan, which we must submit to the commission through MSDE each year by October 1st. And so it is a very specific support that is provided with face-to-face service. We have been in a partnership with Chesapeake College Plan since 2014. It is a local organization, and they provide us with ongoing data and checkpoints, monitoring their outreach to students and supporting those who need additional assistance, who may not have parental support or any home support to complete this process.
So it's largely in person, helping them walk
The
through
reason that
process.
we prefer Chesapeake College Plan, because they are an in-person support. The other vendors, although they may be within Maryland, they provide primarily virtual or online support. So they come out, Chesapeake College Plan comes to lunches every week to the various high schools, and their team supports our students individually, and they communicate and coordinate with our school counselors on a regular basis for individualized support.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you bringing that last part up about the individual support and the in-person, because, you know, while it does look like the three prices, the one is much cheaper. If you look at their unit rate, it's significantly higher than Chesapeake College Plan. So it's a good job by you guys with going with the lowest responsive, not just simply the lowest, getting the most bang for our buck. But my question is, compared to the previous fiscal year, how does this price compare? What was it in the previous fiscal year, roughly?
I do not have that number directly in front of me. However, it may, my best guesstimate just from memory was within about a $3,000 range. So the scope of increase is very minimal from the 10 years, almost now 11 years that we've worked with Chesapeake College Plan.
Fantastic, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Joining me next is Ms. Shuchita Warner, Director of Planning and Construction, to recommend a partial roof replacement at Plum Point Middle School using the Omnia Partners Cooperative Contract PW 1925. The roof at Plum Point Middle School does need a partial replacement, and the use of the Omnia Partners contract allows Garland DBS to come out and assess the situation, and then, per their cooperative agreement with Omnia Partners, conduct a competitive process for obtaining quotes for the project. Based on that process, which showed that JBK Contracting will be subcontracted to do the work as the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, we respectfully request that the board approve the using the identified contract to award the partial roof replacement at Plum Point Middle School to Garland DBS of Cleveland, Ohio for $34,492. Funding for this purchase will be through the school construction budget.
We need a motion
Move to approve.
and a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Is the current roof leaking, and that's what's causing the mold and mildew issue at Plum Point Middle?
So there are a lot of issues at Plum Point Middle School, not just a portion of this roof that is problematic, but in this section, they have had continuous leaks, and it is a very isolated section of roof that we're trying to get done. To address the other issues, we've had a CIP funding request for the last several years, but we're going to apply for a different grant this year in the hope that we can get those other issues addressed.
Thank you. My kids went there, by the way.
Any other questions?
Yes. All right, couple things. So how much metal decking repair do we foresee there could be needing, just looking at their unit price they've got in there for that right now? Do we think there's going to be a lot of metal decking repair?
So I believe that they've put in an allowance, but one thing that Garland does is they utilize this unit pricing calculator, and then what they do is they actually bid out to the local market as a comparison. So in terms of where the price comes in, the lower of the two is what they utilize and then pass on to us. There is a little bit of allowance built in for metal roof repair, but it would be minimal.
Okay. Then the only other two parts I have are, the interior temporary protection I see is excluded from the proposal. Are we going to take care of that in-house individually with our building service workers or our, maintenance people?
That's typically something that they put in on their proposals, but we usually do work with them to tarp those areas. And we certainly coordinate any kind of tear-off to occur during the time when the building, we're actually going to try to see if we can get the work done prior to school starting. So we would want to make sure that the work doesn't happen on the weekends, so that if there are any kinds of leaks, et cetera, that we're monitoring them and we'll make sure that the area is tarped off.
Okay, and then as far as permits being excluded, are there any permits required, and can we get them if so? But there's none required at all?
No, because this is considered a maintenance project. Roofing is considered maintenance, so you're putting back, you're not doing any kinds of upgrades in terms of electrical that would require any of that kind of work. So things like parking lots, roofs, they do not require permits.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Warner.
Thank you.
And Mr. Taylor, since you're here, you want to go through copy machines?
Yeah, I have one more before that.
Oh, okay.
and then we'll
Sneaking it
do
on
the
there.
Copy machines. The next recommendation is from the Department of Instruction via Joyce King, Supervisor of State and Federal Grant Programs, for approval to send 8 staff members to Gallup Global Strengths Coach Training in Washington, D.C., which, upon completion of training, will provide the school district with certified Gallup strength coaches. These coaches will then be equipped to identify and nurture the unique strengths of CCPS staff, allowing them to grow as instructional and administrative leaders. Funding for this purchase will be made through Title II grant funds. We respectfully request that the board approve the purchase of Gallup Global Strengths Coach Training and Travel for up to $76,800.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, this is budgeted in the FY26 budget? Grant money?
So I'll speak to this. Mrs. Jacobs can add to it. Title II funding is federal funding, and this particular funding is, Title II is for professional learning. And this particular set of money expires September 30th. So because of that, and because it's connected to professional learning, we have extensive opportunity with Grow Your Own. We currently contract that out to someone else. With our connection to our support staff association and building a leadership opportunity as well, we feel like that this would be valuable to the school system to be able to serve not only our teacher leaders, our administrative cohorts, but also our support staff cohorts.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so have we identified who will be taking this training? Are we going to have members from all of the different areas attend the training?
We are in the process of determining who those would be.
And so my apologies, because it clearly says Dr. Johnson right here. I wasn't trying to jump over you. I was trying to be organized, but thank you for that. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank
Okay,
you.
next.
Now
Copy
on to
machines.
copiers, yes. My final recommendation is for a copy center production, printer refresh, and maintenance. Pursuant to CCPS Policy 5510, board approval is requested to use Fairfax County Government Contract Number 440-12320 for the proposed lease and purchase plan to replace and maintain the district's production printers over the next 5 years with Konica Minolta. The proposed plan would save the district $128,563 over the previous 5-year agreement, and with the purchase of one production printer, would offer more flexibility for the district past that 5-year mark. Funding for this purchase will be made through the local operating budget. We respectfully request that the board award the lease purchase of a copy center production printer refresh and maintenance to Konica Minolta of Ramsey, New Jersey, for $73,068 in year 1, which includes the purchase of one production printer, and $30,290 in years 2 through 5. The cost for all 5 years includes equipment and maintenance.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have one. So do we also have a paper contract that goes along with this? Where are we getting our paper from?
No, paper we get from our punch-out vendors, so we go and look and see who has the best pricing. and that's where we go for paper. So we don't have a contract for one direct vendor. We get competitive quotes whenever we need paper.
So with nearly 5 million impressions, are we doing anything to think about digital distribution for this, or is this things that have to be on paper?
I think the previous contract was for almost 9 million prints. So we have done some, we have made some improvements to have more things be digital, and that's why we lowered down the scope of the amount of impressions that we would need.
Awesome. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Mr. Kevin Hook and bus contracts.
Good evening, Mrs. Post, members of the board. My name is Kevin Hook. I am Director of Transportation. I am here this evening to present to you the bus contracts for this coming school year, FY26, both the full-term and the short-term contracts. The language is absolutely identical to the language from last year's contracts. Nothing has changed. The only change for both sets of contracts is in Attachment 1. Attachment 1 being where the pay comes from for the bus contracts. And the only thing that has changed in Attachment 1 are the areas that are covered by CPI for increases each year, which would include driver pay, management fee, and trip fees. And the consumer price index this year was 2.6%. So those three items were increased by 2.6%.
So let me, before we
Motion to
make a
approve, right?
wait 1 second. Are we approving both of these or one?
You can do them one at a time if you'd like, but the only difference between a full term and a short term, we call the short term a temporary route. Those buses are not paid what we call a per vehicle allotment, which is a 12-year bus. They would purchase it for 12 years. A short term can be 6 months, 2 months, a year. So those can come and go as we see fit. So if you'd like to do them separately, that's fine.
I like to make sure they don't come up in August every year. I'd like to talk about these.
Well,
like in
Well,
June next
can I
year.
make a motion to approve both bus
Yes.
contracts?
yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second,
Okay. Comments?
discussion. Okay, so it's August, it's the middle of August, nearly. Can we look at doing the review of the contract so that it's not timed with the beginning of the school year?
Yes, sir. Actually, we are intending to start meeting once again with the bus contractors in September so that we can attempt to get next year's accomplished much earlier. We did actually begin this process last October.
I appreciate you guys meeting with them earlier. Can we set an actual target to have something ready before the end of the upcoming school year? So that we're not up against the gun of starting school and not having this done?
Absolutely.
And then with these contracts, it's not a contract per vendor, it's a contract for every single bus individually?
Every single bus route individually, yes.
Right,
We have
so-
161 this year. We actually dropped one route this year.
Right, but so a bus vendor that may have several buses and several bus routes, rather than have one contract with them that covers it all, we need to do it per route?
It is per bus route, yes.
Okay, and what's
And it actually has the bus's VIN number attached to the contract.
gotcha, and what's in this contract, what's the guaranteed number of hours of pay per day?
For a driver in this contract, it's 8 hours per day still.
What's the average drive time?
Average drive time for Calvert County schools is about 6.5 hours.
So we're looking at, on average, there's 1.5 hours of pay without work. And I think our teachers have typically a 7-hour day, pay day. Okay.
Is there any other comments, questions? No? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hook. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'll invite Ms. Shashida Warner back up for our Calvert Elementary School, Calvert Country School Master Study presentation. That's a mouthful. Shoo.
Good evening, President Post, members of the board. I'm Suchita Warner, Director of Planning and Construction, and I am before you today to present the master feasibility study for the Calvert Elementary and Calvert Country campus, as well as the Brooks Administration Building. First of all, I wanted to emphasize that the purpose of today's presentation is informational only. We are not expecting the board to make any decisions. The objectives of today's presentation are to highlight the plan for Calvert Elementary and Calvert Country replacement, to present opportunities to use existing facilities for future needs, to overview the current CIP projects that we have and potential future projects, and review next steps. So, as was presented within the Educational Facilities Master Plan in May of this year, the next major projects that are slated in the CIP are Calvert Elementary and Calvert Country, followed by Mount Harmony Elementary School. Currently within the CIP, these projects follow basically a start to finish kind of a sequence with the design of one starting, construction commencing, construction completes, and then the process repeats for the next project. However, because Calvert County Public Schools receives a little over half of our funding from the state, they tend to be very intricately involved in the approval of these projects and then follow up with funding once that approval occurs. So to receive approval and financial support from the state for the Calvert Country School project, it has been determined and strongly emphasized by the state that they will support that project if it is a co-located facility with Calvert Elementary School. We do believe that this constraint placed on us by the state actually opens up multiple opportunities for Calvert County schools. It allows us to widen the aperture and see potential uses for the campus to effectively support our students and meet the system's long-term needs. That is what I want to present to you today. It is the art of the possible. We are really, really looking long range here. That is one thing that I do. Now, what you see on this screen is the existing campus. It's a little bit of a snapshot. Number one in teal is the existing Calvert Country School building. It was built in 1957 with actually an addition in 1983, which is not noted here, but that did happen. Number two in pink is the existing Calvert Elementary building with construction dates of the original building 1963, then 1974, 1981, 1999. There was a partial roofing replacement, and then in 2006 we did a kindergarten addition. South of Dares Beach Road, you see the building that we are sitting in here today. This is the Brooks Administration Building. Actually, it was originally built in 1939, but then there was an addition that was done in 1958. In 1990 was when the warehouse facilities in the back were added. So in 1974, this building was turned into an administration building. Really, there have not been any upgrades made other than a fire alarm system that was added. And then over back on the top of the page again, number 4 is what we lovingly call the existing Brooks Administration Modular Trailer Complex, which is where a portion of IT as well as child nutrition are located. So that is a look at the campus. Now, what we're going to try to do very quickly at a very high-level overview, this slide, while packing in a lot of information, shows that we can, in fact, construct a new Calvert Elementary School and a new Calvert Country within the green space between the two existing buildings. We can have adequate parking, a bus loop, and we can keep the existing facilities for future use. The left half of this slide shows how the construction would be phased, starting with the construction of the new fire access road, followed by construction of the two facilities that are shown in Diamond 1 and 2. And then on the right half of this slide, you can see the circular Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2 representing the existing Calvert Country and Calvert Elementary facilities. So what I'm going to go over today with you is there are some possibilities for potential future uses of the Calvert Country building. We'll go over that pretty quickly today. The existing Calvert Elementary building, though, we foresee a possibility of utilizing that as a swing space for future projects. So we'll talk about that. Okay, first we'll start with the existing Calvert Elementary. So this particular building, this is a kind of a footprint of the floor plan. One thing that I want to emphasize before I start talking about this is if we look long-term, after Calvert Country and Calvert Elementary are complete, the next project being Mount Harmony, we need to address the fact that that is a very constrained site. So that school is bounded by Mount Harmony Road. You've got the school, you've got a staff parking on one side, and then on the other side. Behind the building are the playfields, and then directly past the playfields are the septic drain fields. There is no space to build. The only way that this would be possible would be for us to acquire additional property or have a swing space to be able to relocate students. Without that, we don't really have any way to make that project a reality. But if we have a swing space, it really opens up the possibilities. If we want to look at a renovation, we can. If we want to look at a partial renovation, partial addition, we can do that as well. But we can't do that without a swing space. So with that, what I want to just show you is, if you look on the top right-hand side, I know it's small, but the number of teaching stations that are in the existing Calvert Elementary building are more than sufficient to be able to house Mount Harmony Elementary were we to utilize it as swing space. And we've done this calculation based on 5-year out projections. And then beyond that, that number still works. So I think that is an important note. If we now move on to the Calvert Country facility, as I stated, based on the state approval of a co-located facility, this does open up opportunities for a potential future use of this building and repurpose it based on our needs. To that end, we've been doing a high-level study for options to locate 2 alternate regional programs into the existing facility, as well as appropriate central office departments that can be fully located alongside to best support these programs. There are options for maintaining the infants and toddlers program where it exists towards the back of the facility, and we can study either putting a regional pre-K facility here to include a couple of teaching stations, or a limited alt-ed regional facility. Depending on the optimal program that should be placed here, that is why you see special ed as one department that would be located here, and then the other department could be student services or CCPS instruction. So once we really study this further, we've just very basically looked at it, then we can move further to make those decisions and recommendations. Looking way ahead in the future, from a long-range planning perspective, keeping these existing facilities across the street does open up opportunities for consolidating the Brooks administration building functions within the existing building that we sit in today, and a small portion of, say, the Calvert Country building as an annex. This slideshow shows options for constructing a 2-story addition to the building, basically closing it up in the back. And then there are 2 opportunities by doing that. And this is very, very early. This is, just looking at basically block diagrams. I just want to emphasize that. So the good takeaway, though, by keeping these facilities across the street is if we wanted to truly do a renovation sometime in the future of this building, we can still utilize that Calvert Elementary building for swing space to locate departments, vacate the areas to renovate this building, move them back. So it's just a lot of opportunities that open up. So at this point, this slideshow shows the overall look of the campus as far as what it could look like now. I'm not going to go over these dollars. These are basically in today's dollars. They have to be escalated for the time of construction. But one takeaway is if you look at some of these square footages, they are pretty conservative. Like, for example, Calvert Country, the new facility that we show in the teal color with the diamond 1, is a fairly large facility. Calvert Elementary is a pretty average at 76,000 square feet, typical for our elementary schools. However, the thing that I want to note is we can fit these buildings across the street. I think that's an important factor. The ed specs, when we finally do them, they will really determine the recommendation for the sizes. But what I really wanted to show is in terms of a test fit, this works. So what are the benefits of repurposing the existing facilities? Just to recap, the swing space that's created for Mount Harmony is certainly something to consider. It opens up options for future limited renovation and major CIP projects and potential for a temporary Brooks swing space for future renovation. Regional program options with the Calvert Country facility, potential for pre-K expansion per blueprint requirements, a potential for an alt-ed regional program facility, perhaps departmental annex to support these programs, and then lastly, a consolidation of our buildings and central office functions. Now, I just want to talk about some timelines. Really, my major takeaway that I wanted to convey here was, as I said, the art of the possible, but I do want to review a couple of these timelines with you. The projects that are highlighted in green are in our CIP currently, but one thing that I plan on doing in September, because it is apparent that Calvert Elementary and Calvert Country are going to essentially be one design and one construction, we can save a year in construction rather than bookend these projects start to finish, which would, based on our calculations, save us about $1 million off of the total project budget. And it would also speed up the completion of that entire set of two spaces or two schools. Mount Harmony Elementary School does not move up in the CIP, that stays where it is. But one thing we do plan on inserting in FY 2032, our CIP last year was FY 2026 to 2031. So this year we begin 2032. We plan on inserting the swing space of Calvert Elementary. And I want to just make a note here that this budget really is for taking care of some HVAC work there that has not been done and partial roofing replacement and then just painting and patching. That would make that facility well enough to be utilized as a swing space. And then there are these other facilities in terms of potential projects. These are very early days. A future Brooks renovation and addition would need to be looked at simply from the basis of the age of this building, but I wanted to at least introduce how it can be accomplished to the board tonight. And then in terms of a regional program facility to be housed at Calvert Country, there will need to be some in-depth work from staff in order to study the best options. So these are really just possibilities for future CIP, but I wanted to introduce that to you. And really next steps in terms of us to study a regional program facility would be to seat a stakeholder committee to study regional program needs. We anticipate about a 6-month time frame with that. We would come back and report to the board with recommendations. If that is something that the board does want us to follow up on and move forward with, we would develop an implementation plan for inclusion in the CIP based on board approval, and then lastly, seek Board of County Commissioners and state support. So with that, I know that was a lot of information, but I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that. That was fantastic. I enjoyed the heck out of it, but I work in construction. I really like your forward planning. It's pretty outside of the box. I like it. Shared space. Would the two buildings have you don't have a design, so I know I'm kind of asking you a question you don't have an answer to, but are you thinking between the two schools with being a co, they would definitely have to have passage between the two, right? You would be able to access one from the other?
We do not know what that's going to look like. I know that there have been co-located facilities that have been done in other districts. Certainly in terms of it would be, a common space to enter. beyond that, we don't know what that would look like. It would really have to be fleshed out during planning, ed spec process. So we're quite early, but we want to be able to jump into that process starting later on this year.
No, I knew that was the answer, but I had to ask. And then has there anything else been done as far as with the commissioners changing any of the zoning to make sure that area gets within the town center? So that we
Yes.
can get some additional state funding for that and help?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, we actually are scheduled to go before the Planning Commission for a priority funding area designation of that campus. And we are also scheduled to go before the Board of County Commissioners. That just got announced yesterday. So those presentations will be happening. And then additionally, if I might add, we've been speaking with Water and Sewer to be able to run the water line, because the campus across the street, as well as this building, is on county sewer, but we are not on water. So that has been incorporated in the budget as well. And we're having conversations with Water and Sewer regarding that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we go to this plan, which I like a lot, and have 2 new co-buildings plus maintain the existing buildings in swing space, you're gonna need a lot more capacity. We need to be on a water main to do that, especially for fire protection, beyond
Correct.
just the normal usage.
Agreed.
So I had read in your update that CIP is going to start decreasing. What is it, 2 or 3% over the next couple of years? So how's that going to impact, all of our projects?
Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to pack this in, so I didn't want to really, so I appreciate you asking that question. So yes, we did receive word from the IAC that we are going to get a reduction in our percentage. Currently, we're at 56%, so that's 56 cents for every dollar that the state participates in. This year, they are going down to 54%, and then in FY29, it will be down to 51%. We have asked for them to reconsider, and they have essentially said that we need to reach out directly to MSDE because that calculation is based on last year's foundation grant information. So that is really, really having some repercussions downstream for us. I believe it would really benefit us if the board, the county were to reach out to the state. There might be some reconsideration for us to get back up to the 56, or at least not lose that level of funding. But my plan is within the CIP, I will be showing, based on the reduction, those are going to be the state and local share amounts that I will be showing. Ultimately, it will, I would imagine, be dependent on the Board of County Commissioners to see if they would be willing to support our projects.
Thank you. And with that, I know that there was an article was out yesterday from the planning meeting about Mount Harmony being over capacity and Northern Middle School, which we're building. Mount Harmony now is, in the plan, but 5-7 years away. What can we do, if anything, about that?
So in terms of Northern Middle School, that building, once it opens up, it should relieve the capacity issues because the state-rated capacity for the new building is actually going to be above and beyond where those enrollments are. So that should take care of that issue. We certainly do have the Mount Harmony project in our CIP. I will say that based on conversations with planning and zoning, where it becomes an issue is if there's a project that's in the pipeline, because it can't be, the final recordation then has to be, it has to hit the pause button for a 7-year period until we can react. There are no projects in the pipeline up there. So even though the district is closed for final recordation for subdivisions, there have not been subdivisions that have been in the pipeline up in that area. So I hope that that helps to answer your question. We don't certainly have to react to any subdivisions that are hitting the pause button. And we do have a plan in place as far as the next project.
Should we get penalized from the state or in some way by being over capacity? Okay, thank you.
No.
I wanted to ask a question. When and where have we employed a swing space model?
We have actually not employed a swing space model ourselves anywhere. We've never had the benefit of a swing space. Charles County Public Schools had a swing space up until very recently. I believe St. Mary's County had a swing space as well. Anne Arundel County has several swing spaces. So they've certainly had the benefit of being able to really look from a feasibility study perspective, a number of options where we are never able to look at, say, a renovation or a partial renovation. So having a swing space certainly helps with that, but we have not. I believe the only thing that comes kind of close would be when we, and this is before my time, when we were building a new facility. I think we might have temporarily moved some students and co-located them with another school. I believe that happened, perhaps, was that with Barstow or? Okay. So there were several schools, but that was before my time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warner.
Thank you.
Up next, we have our comprehensive maintenance plan review, Mr. Gott.
Sorry about that. I was caught in rush hour traffic there. Good afternoon, President Post and members of the school board. My name is Gregory Gott, and I'm here this afternoon to do some highlights of the FY26 Comprehensive Maintenance Plan. This past year, we were able to complete several projects, which we have to consider as highlights. The Patuxent High School gymnasium floor was completely renovated from the ground up due to some water damage and termites. So they got a new playing facility, although they did lose their basketball season last winter. We also were able to include the inspection of all the elementary school playgrounds. Previously, we had done 5 that were identified as problems. But this year we were able to complete all of them and have those reports. We did some renovation to the Northern High School softball infield. The Huntingtown High School outfield fence was repaired. We also transferred the sprinkler system at Calvert High School over to public water off of the well. And we were able to, at the very last moment, purchase 2 vans for the facilities department. These are some of the goals that we've set for school facilities for FY26. We have plans in the CIP for the replacement of those 5 original playgrounds, but I would like to see us come up with a plan for the remaining schools because they all need and deserve to have the same options as the others. We want to continue to provide professional development for opportunities for our staff. Even though our budgets have decreased, we will find ways to provide those services. We also need to have a plan on replacement of vehicles. While I'm very thankful that we were able to get 2 at the very end of this year, we will run into a time frame where things start to fail and probably fail in large numbers. And if we don't address them year to year, we will dig ourselves a hole. And we also are looking for some cost-saving measures on how we do some of our maintenance and operations. These are some of the challenges that we're facing. The number of responsibilities on maintenance staff has increased without additional staff being added. If any of you are familiar with Northern High School and their parking lot, rather than having islands in their parking lot, they have ponds in their parking lot. Those are all bio ponds. It's part of stormwater management. They all have a certain type of plants planted in them. They have to be maintained. Those plants have to be kept in those ponds. It is an extensive amount of work that now has been inherited by the grounds department in school facilities. We've been fortunate enough to be able in the past to reach out and have some contractors help us with those because our staff just is overwhelmed on trying to take care of that amount of work. The ability to repair failing and aged systems, it becomes more difficult year by year. The production of parts for 50-year-old HVAC equipment is pretty limited if it exists at all. We've been very fortunate. Our staff is very competent at finding things on the internet, either through eBay or some other seller, to get some of those parts and replace them, but at some point, it will catch up to us. Just like that, the vehicles I had mentioned before, we have to come up with a plan on how we are going to be able to replace these in some type of scheduled replacement. The other problem we're running into is we're running into finding vendors to give us quoted prices for projects. Because what seems to happen is one contractor is always the lowest when we get pricing. So after you've asked somebody to give you pricing on floors 2 or 3 times, they're not interested in coming down and giving you a price again because they just don't feel like they have an opportunity to compete. And this happens across the board, not with just flooring, but even HVAC parts and equipment. If they can't get the work, they're not willing to continuously come down and give us additional pricing. So that becomes a problem for us. So with that being said, I'm certainly open to any questions that I might be able to answer for the board tonight.
I just have one question. When you talk about the replacement of the playground equipment, does that include to make sure that as those upgrades are happening or replacements are happening, that the grounds themselves are also ADA compliant and the equipment is ADA compliant?
Yes, so the plan would be the same as we have done Plum Point Elementary School. The rubberized playground surface was supposed to be poured on Wednesday, so I'm hoping it's done by now. But that included a total access reassessment of that property. So they have put in sidewalks, everything is ADA compliant, and that will happen as we go through each and every one of these projects. It's not just the playground equipment, it's not just the poured surface, but it's the access to these playgrounds that are being addressed.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So schools often do fundraisers for playgrounds. We fundraise every year of elementary school. Are the funds that they raise, do they go towards your budget and the cost of these projects? It does not.
No, it does not go towards my department, though I would love to have it. Typically, what's happened and what we're trying to avoid in the future is there are the have schools and there are the have not schools. People can raise money in one part of the county, but not necessarily the same in the other part of the county. So what we are trying to do, we have a playground committee. We're trying to have a dialed-in program of what a playground should have in it. Give the schools some options as far as colors, theme, but keeping the same footprint and any additional equipment that schools may need to buy or want to buy to be incorporated within that framework rather than having a strip mall at one elementary school against the wood edge that's hundreds of yards long.
Okay, thank you. And then you mentioned all the additional responsibilities your team is now having to do and bringing in contractors. Do you need more staff, or are contractors the right way to fill those needs? Like, are they on a regular basis, or?
So that's a mixed answer. That's yes for both. Do we need additional staff full-time? Yes, we do, to pick up some of those duties rather than trying to reach out to contractors. But on the same token, we've also lost some funding in the contracted services portion of that, so we're not able to utilize that the way we had in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Well, is it that there's some tasks that are better suited for subcontractors versus in-house staff as well, just depending on the specificity of what needs done?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have you mentioned that, you're worried about the maintenance fleet and stuff breaking, and it's gonna be in a high number when it does, kind of all at once. Ballpark, how many vehicles you think you need to replace and how soon, besides the two you just bought?
So beginning in 2016 through 2019, 2020, pretty much every vehicle in school facilities was replaced for staff-operated daily vehicles. So the oldest is they're at 2016 right now, which is 9 years. Most are somewhere between 125 to 200+ thousand miles. So those 2016s are the ones that are going to get to us first. But there'll be portions each and every year following that that'll be in the same ballpark.
Gotcha, and then the only other comment I had, not to be the bad guy, back in the goals for 2026 would be, I would like to see something in there regarding the playing surfaces at the high schools and what we're doing to make sure they're improved from this past year, because we heard so many complaints about all those. I know there's a thing with the sprinklers and when the water could come and a temporary pump, and I mean, we can get temporary pumps and like that. I mean, I can call a rental vendor, they come really quick.
So those are contracted services. We don't perform what I would call maintenance on the surfaces. We do the grass cutting, we do the weed eating, but we do have those services contracted out. There had to be some major repairs made at the end of the spring season. I think the one difficult part, I don't have a preference whether we're talking natural grass or turf. They both require maintenance. They both require, service all the time. The problem with the Bermuda fields is the Bermuda growth period is May to September. You're going to have a nice, beautiful field for football season in the fall. But in order to have any ground coverage in the spring, it has to be overseeded with ryegrass that will come up earlier in the year, February, grow in and give you a green ground cover. But by the time you get to May, you're on the field with weed killer, killing the ryegrass that you planted because it'll stunt the growth of the Bermuda field. And we don't stay off of the fields. It's going to be even worse next year with the addition of girls football if we play it in the fall. You're talking about probably varsity and JV, so another 2 teams along with 4 soccer teams, varsity football, boys varsity and JV football now, it's a ton of usage to that field to expect it to withstand that amount of use.
Do we have to play JV in the stadium field?
Not my call.
Noted. Just a thought.
I honestly, I think the 2 roughest sports on those fields are football and lacrosse in the spring, which is playing on a rye field, so it has nowhere near the durability that the Bermuda grass has in the fall. That's almost one sport that needs to come off of the stadium and have, even if you have a smaller turf field somewhere other than the stadium, to play that sport on so that you don't damage that stadium field.
Mr. Gott, do you have responsibility for the entire fleet of CCPS or just facilities vehicles?
The entire
fleet?
Yes.
And that was all replaced between 2016 and 2020?
We still have some outliers that are probably closer to we have some 1990 vehicles. They're not used on a daily basis. They're used probably part of the year. Grounds uses pickup trucks with trailers during the summer as they're cutting grass. When they move to winter and they're doing stormwater pond, management, they're using a van where they can carry equipment and not have it exposed to the weather when they're not here. So they switch over. And so some of those vehicles aren't everyday vehicles, but we do have some outliers that are older. I know Ms. Post had brought to my attention the vehicles that were sitting back in the back previously. Those have all been sold on Gov Deals. Some of those were 1990 with over 325,000 miles on them in non-running condition at this point.
And you're doing all the maintenance in-house, or we sending that to local dealerships?
All the oil changes and filters and things of that nature are done in-house with 2 mechanics. We had 2 mechanics when we approximately had 30 vehicles. We have 60 vehicles in maintenance now, not including the transportation department, the food service department, the pool cars out front. We're still doing it all with 2 people at this point in 1 lift.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gott.
Thank you.
Next, we have a strategic plan implementation update, and I invite Dr. Johnson, Ms. Jacobs, Ms. Lewis, and Mr. McComb.
Good evening, President Post and members of the Board of Education. My name is Susan Johnson. I am the Chief Operations Officer. With me today, I have
Scott Johnson, Chief Financial Officer.
Jackie Jacobs, Chief Academic Officer.
Cecilia Lewis, Director of Student Services.
Tonight's presentation is an important update on the progress we're making toward our strategic plan. Since we last shared this work with the Board of Education, we have continued to listen, reflect, and refine our strategies based on the feedback we received. We're excited to share that our public-facing dashboard is posted on our website, providing transparent, real-time insights into our progress across each priority area. This update reflects the ongoing work happening across our schools and departments to bring the strategic plan to life. To expanded student opportunities, every effort is aligned to our shared vision and focused on ensuring success for every student. In March, the Board of Education approved a refreshed mission statement that affirms our unwavering commitment to student success. The mission is more than words. It's a reflection of our values and a guide for our daily work. CCPS will raise the bar for excellence in education by empowering students with a rigorous academic and career foundation. This mission reflects our dedication to preparing every student for success academically, professionally, and personally. It guides our priorities, shapes our strategies, and ensures that every decision we make is focused on unlocking student potential and building a strong foundation for their future. As we move forward, this mission will continue to inspire and inform our efforts to create learning environments where all students can thrive. As we envision the path that every student takes from their first day in CCPS to graduation, we anchor that journey in 3 powerful ideas drawn directly from our mission: unlocking potential, empowering excellence, and shaping futures. These words serve as a simple, memorable way to communicate our vision and mission. They reflect the heart of our work. Unlocking potential speaks to our belief in every student's ability to grow, achieve, and discover their strengths. Empowering excellence highlights our commitment to providing rigorous academic and career opportunities that challenge and inspire. And shaping future reminds us that the ultimate goal is to prepare students not for graduation, but for a lifetime of success. This journey is not just the academic achievement, it's about developing confident, capable individuals who are ready to lead, contribute, and thrive in this rapidly changing world.
Last year, the Board of Education approved key priority areas and objectives of the strategic plan. Those 4 key priority areas are student excellence, culture for learning, organizational accountability, and community engagement. Each priority area and defined objectives reflect our shared commitment to creating a thriving education environment where every student can succeed. In March, we presented the initial strategies aligned to those approved objectives. During the Board of Education meeting, members provided feedback. While the objectives themselves have not changed, the feedback received has guided the refinement of our strategies to better meet the needs of our students, staff, and community. Tonight, we are presenting those updated strategies for each priority area, beginning with student excellence. These updates reflect our commitment to continuous improvement and our responsiveness to the voices of those we serve. Together, they represent our collective effort to ensure that every student is prepared for success in school, life, and beyond. As shared prior, our measures for progress toward the strategic priority area of student excellence are tracking 5 core indicators aligned with the MSDE growth expectations. Each reflect a critical dimension of student achievement and readiness. The first is graduation. Graduation is a fundamental milestone that reflects a student's ability to complete a rigorous academic program. It also signals readiness for post-secondary education workforce. College and career readiness ensures students are equipped with the skills, credentials, and experiences needed to succeed beyond high school, whether in college, technical training, or a career. ELA MCAT performance. Literacy is that foundational to learning literacy is foundational to all learning. Strong performance in ELA indicates students are developing the reading, writing, and critical thinking skills essential for academic success in life. Mathematics proficiency performance. Math proficiency is that key predictor of future academic achievement and career opportunities, especially in STEM fields. Growth in this area reflects strong instructional support and student engagement. The Ready to Read Act is another key performance indicator. That early literacy is one of those strongest predictors of long-term academic success, and ensuring that our students are ready to read on grade level by the end of grade 2 sets that stage for future learning. Each of these indicators that we'll show at the end of today's presentation is in that data platform that we're going to pull up, and there will be aligned data charts and reports to showing our measurable goals that guide our continuous improvement efforts. So within the priority area of student excellence, we have updated our strategies that fall under ensuring every student meets or exceeds curricular standards. To achieve that vision of student excellence, we begin with that strong academic foundation. We are conducting a comprehensive audit of our core curriculum to assess alignment with state standards and the use of high-quality instructional materials. The findings will guide a phased action plan to ensure all students have consistent access to rigorous standards-aligned instruction. We are also investing in our educators through collaborative, job-embedded cycles of improvement. These cycles focus on strengthening instructional practices, using data to identify students in need of support, and ensuring effective use of high-quality instructional materials to meet the needs of all learners. To accelerate learning for students requiring additional support, we are implementing and monitoring Tier 2 and Tier 3 academic and behavioral interventions through a digital platform. This allows us to track progress, identify trends, and make timely data-informed instructional adjustments. The MTSS guidebook has been revised to support understandings of Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions and supports, and we are looking toward a digital platform to increase our effectiveness in monitoring those interventions. This foundational work ensures that every student is equipped with the academic tools they need to succeed, setting that stage for deeper engagement with their interests and aspirations. A quick update in this area. Our core content teams have been collaborating with MSDE to review new curriculum frameworks and rubrics, guiding next steps for alignment and improvement. This summer, our administrators and supervisors engaged in professional learning to strengthen their ability to lead collaborative, teacher-led cycles of instructional improvement, Additional training focused on Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, covering data analysis, student needs, and progress monitoring. We are also exploring that digital platform to streamline access to student data and support timely informed decisions about interventions. In our next objective, we're building on that foundation, and we are committed to ensuring that every student has access to opportunities that connect learning with their passions and future goals. These updated strategies help us to expand meaningful career advising experiences that help students align their academic journey with their personal interests and long-term aspirations. These experiences are designed to be relevant, personalized, and empowering. Through our partnership with the College of Southern Maryland, we are strengthening the early college program by enhancing access to the one-year transfer certificate and launching the new Associates of Science and Business Administration track. These pathways allow students to earn college credits while still in high school, giving them a head start on their post-secondary journey. We are also designing a post-CCR pathway for advanced placement to provide CCR designated students with access to rigorous college-level coursework aligned to their academic interests. And to ensure that every student is college-ready, we are expanding access to registered youth apprenticeships through partnerships with industries and workforce development agencies. These structured paid work-based learning opportunities provide students with real-world experience, industry credentials, and a clear path to future success. These efforts ensure that students not only meet the academic expectation, but also discover and pursue their passions in a meaningful, future-focused way. For this upcoming school year, we have 35 students engaging in the one-year program at CSM and 15 students engaging in that two-year associate's program through early college. It is an exciting step forward in expanding access to college-level learning. CCPS has also selected the Maryland AP pathway to meet the state's AP pathway requirement. We are currently assessing its impact, developing communication strategies, and reviewing budget implications. In addition, we continue to grow apprenticeship opportunities through partnerships with local businesses and community organizations, and have even created apprenticeship experiences within our own school system to support student career exploration and readiness. And then finally, under student excellence, to support students in becoming lifelong learners, we are focusing on cultivating the mindsets, habits, and experiences that drive deep engagement and sustained success. Instructional staff are implementing evidence-based routines that foster student independence, critical thinking, and ownership of learning. These practices help students build confidence, resilience, and a belief that their ability to grow and succeed. We are also expanding opportunities to engage in project-based learning that connects classroom instruction to real-world challenges. Through community partnerships, students will apply their knowledge in meaningful ways that deepen engagement and relevance. To ensure our assessments support this vision, we are establishing a structured process for evaluating and updating them, ensuring that they remain rigorous, standards-aligned, and instructionally meaningful. Finally, we are embedding practices across all classrooms that promote responsive instruction, meeting students where they are, honoring their experiences, and designing learning that is both challenging and deeply engaging. Together, these strategies ensure that every student is not only academically prepared, but inspired, confident, and ready to thrive in a complex, dynamic world. An update, this summer, teachers are participating now in our project-based learning training. Each year, we've increased the number who have participated in that training to be able to expand the capacity to deliver authentic, real-world learning experiences. The Department of Instruction has engaged in professional learning focused on building high-quality assessments within that Performance Matters platform. Over the past year, teachers have participated in professional learning on culturally responsive instruction, both during content-specific sessions and through our equity-focused professional development. These efforts have supported our goals of increasing rigor, relevance, and the development of academic mindsets across all classrooms.
Thank you. I know we're not done. My ankles and my feet are freezing. I'm freezing in here, and we still have a lot to get through. So if you would kindly just go through and give us some of the highlights on the rest, and then we can read all of these slides on our own time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Our next priority area is culture for learning. A strong culture for learning is essential to student success. It's about creating environments where students feel safe, supported, and connected, conditions that are foundational for academic and personal growth, environments that integrate supports that foster a positive school climate, create equitable access to opportunities for students to learn, and support academic achievements are foundational to the overall Calvert County Public Schools journey of a graduate. Calvert County Public Schools is committed to the safety and support of physical, mental, social, emotional, and behavioral health and overall well-being of all of our students. We are monitoring key indicators, as you can see here, that reflect this culture. These include chronic absenteeism and overall student attendance, which help us understand how consistently students are engaging with school. We know that regular attendance is a strong predictor of academic success, and we were working to remove those barriers that keep students from being present and ready to learn. We are also listening directly from students through our surveys and their own sense of belonging, as well as their feeling safe at school. Overall, these indicators are highlighted above, making sure that our students are included, as well as our least restrictive environment indicator. Overall, these indicators help us build and sustain a culture where students are not only present, but fully engaged, supported, and ready to thrive. So the culture for learning has 5 objectives. Those objectives are highlighted here, where we will create and support accessible learning environments that are equitable and inclusive. Our biggest piece here is we need to ensure that every student has a uniform and feels connected to Calvert County Public Schools. Research in all aspects show that when students are connected and they are known, then safety rises. So relationship building is a big part to the first objective. We also wanted to highlight a strategy here to expand our alternative education options. We would like students to have more educational choice, and it also supports any ongoing academic progress and an environment that supports academic rigor and support. We are looking to create environments that support that academic growth and mindset. Our biggest strategy here is to help to develop family workshops and tools to reinforce the importance of attendance and address those barriers that are creating chronic absenteeism. We also want to continue to celebrate student and staff successes, embedding our celebrations into our instructional routines, such as our restorative and community circles and bulletin boards within the classroom. Our next objective is to provide systems for behavior and social and emotional supports and interventions that create safe and orderly learning environments. One of the highlights here is to develop student lessons and expand resources and awareness for students and families about bullying prevention and the reporting process so that we can increase engagement for interventions when these events do happen so that students are feeling safe, and that is directly from our data. When bullying has been a continuous concern, particularly in the cyber world and social media, so we want to ensure that we are providing lessons and actually teaching students how to support one another through this process. We also want to implement the universal SEL instruction and behavior expectations, specifically in the pre-K through 2 classrooms initially, because we are seeing some challenges in those areas with just basic school expectations, and in doing so, providing small group interventions for students with emerging behavioral needs. Lastly, we are going to continue to provide relevant and ongoing professional growth and opportunities. A highlight here is to ensure that we develop a district plan where all CCPS school-based staff complete the Maryland State Department of Education MSDE, an Introduction to Bullying Prevention for Maryland Educators online asynchronous course. By doing so, it'll help our staff to not only recognize behaviors that are not aligned to our expectations in Calvert County Public School with bullying, but also to how to appropriately intervene with those concerns. And lastly, our teachers and school-based behavioral health teams will continue to implement and document targeted social emotional learning and interventions through our Panorama Universal Screener. So that is something that we are planning to add as an additional indicator as we establish baseline data from feedback from that screener.
This next slide includes the dashboard indicators for organizational accountability. In addition, another tracking tool is planned for the fundraising and donation objectives of the strategic plan. On this slide, you'll see that we have the first of 4 of the 6 organizational accountability objectives. And you'll see in the first 3 bullets, there's an abbreviation MP at the end. That stands for Microsoft Project, and we'll show you an excerpt of 2 Microsoft Project plans after this slide. I'll draw your attention next to objective number 2, where it's ensure fair and just distribution of available resources. We've added a note here that this aligns with the blueprint resource allocation requirements. So there was a request for clarification on which of the strategic plan elements were driven by blueprint requirements and which were locally driven. So this one was a blueprint requirement. And then in the bottom section, the final objective on this slide, you'll see that we've added 2 sub-objectives compared to similar positions in other districts and consider eliminating redundancies. And this was expanded to clarify the objective titled Analyze Administrative Job Descriptions to Improve Efficiency. Moving to the next slide. In just a moment, I'll show you an excerpt of 2 Microsoft Projects plans for the 2 objectives. And this project management tool is useful for developing construction projects and for many other different types of projects. And it includes a variety of fields, but the ones that we'll highlight include the task description, estimated duration of each task, and the target start and completion date for each task, along with the persons responsible for the task, and an indicator showing the percent completion for each task. With that, let's take a look at the next slide. This is an excerpt of the detailed project plan for the fundraising policy and procedures development project. And we'll turn next to the excerpt of the fundraising policy and procedure development objective using the same tool. Many of the steps are very similar. The format is obviously very similar and includes the fields that I shared just a moment ago. And if we can advance to the next slide. The first objective on this slide, I highlighted, this is to align with the blueprint requirements regarding staff, high quality and diverse staff. And we've also provided information to the board regarding the employee exit procedures separately from this presentation. Thank you.
And finally, the community engagement piece. One of the major concerns that you brought to us at our last meeting were the indicators. So our team this spring defined family engagement, and you can see that on this slide. So family engagement refers to the meaningful and active participation of families in their child's education and development, and it goes beyond simply being aware of school activities. It involves ongoing collaboration between families, educators, and the community to support a child's academic success, social, emotional well-being, and overall growth. It's rooted in 4 core beliefs: that all families have dreams for their children and want the best for them. All families have the capacity to support their children's learning. Families and students, school staff should be equal partners, and the responsibility for building partnerships between school and home rests primarily with school staff, especially our leaders. So what we did was we took this family engagement definition and we developed different indicators for success. So one of the, previously we had a couple indicators that were on here, such as downloads for applications, and then how many people were following us on Facebook, those types of things, because that's where a lot of our parents are getting that information. But we have added some different things based on this definition, and they include the number of parent-teacher conferences that are held where parents are coming into the schools and meeting with staff at either parent conferences or meetings involving instruction or even behavioral supports that they might need, so that there's that connection between the parent and the school in those types of meetings. How many of our parents and guardians are joining school committees and really starting to track that? We've never tracked that before, and looking at that. What are the total number of district and school events that are open to the parents? So it's very clear how our schools are engaging our parents in many different areas. The total number of volunteers was there last time, but we have that filled with numbers now. So this is our data from last year. You see that we had 13,294 volunteers in the school, which totals 62,329 hours. So those two metrics will remain. And then we are also tracking our active and diverse partnerships. We have a committee that is working on developing that. That is part of our career counselors, our PBL projects, and also other community engagement forces. And we're looking to make sure that we have a database of all our active partnerships so that people know who those partners are, and then we'll be seeking additional partnerships and constantly improving and adding partners to that. And then you can see the parent satisfaction communication. So measured with the climate survey this year, 90.51% of our parents were satisfied with our communication. So that was coming from that parent survey this year. We completed all of our objectives that were listed here for year one of our community engagement, and now we are moving on to our new set of strategies to continue this with the creation of a communication plan and outlining our expectations for schools to send out regularly scheduled newsletters at a specific time. The feedback from our parent community is that it was best to get things from 5 to 8 p.m. in the evening. So really thinking about having that consistent day that not all schools will do, but that one school will do, but it needs to be between 5 and 8 during that time. And then looking through, making sure that everybody knows our preferred tools for communication, making sure that those newsletters highlight staffs and student celebrations, specific volunteer opportunities in the school and in the system, the events and opportunities that will be available in the schools, and then those opportunities to sign up. And then from that partnership piece, really looking at our website to create that events and opportunities section on the website, sharing our district partnership list and continuing to add those partners, and to develop a section in the community engagement and partnership page for those opportunities. So those are the pieces that we will be moving out in the coming weeks to ensure that those community engagement activities actually take place. At this time, if Ms. Maxey, you could just preview the dashboard so that everyone can see that. It is currently live on our website. By going to district information, the CCPS strategic plan page, and then it says view strategic dashboard, and you can, at the top it says home, indicators and strategy. If you'll click on indicators, Mrs. Maxey, you'll see what our enrollment was for 24-25 and all our specific indicators about our district. And then as you scroll down, you'll see the indicators for student excellence, culture of learning, organizational accountability, and then also community engagement. So you'll see all those tiles there. And then Mrs. Maxey, if you'll click on strategies, anybody could go in, and if you take that first student excellent strategy objective, but if you go to the far right and click on the street, you'll see the 3 strategies, where we are in the completion of those strategies, and then if there's any details, there's opportunity to do that, so parents can interact with that. Thank you, Ms. Maxey.
Thank you very much. This was a significant amount of work that you all have put into this, and we greatly appreciate it. If I do have a question around the chronic absenteeism, and then just student attendance, and there may be a file here, but I can't click on it, so I'm going to ask just while it's in the front of my mind. What is there? When we talk about the 18.5%, is that what are the groups that make up that? So is it unexcused absences? Is it sick days? Is it kids that were on home hospital? What is the makeup of what is considered chronic absenteeism?
Sure. So the reason is not taken into account when you're working through the percentages. What chronic absenteeism means is that if a student misses 10% or more of their total enrolled days in Calvert County Public School, so that varies from student to student. You may have, and by state law, the minimum requirement of enrollment days in order to be considered is 10. So you may have one student who was enrolled for 10 days in our school system and missed one day, that thus they would count as chronically absent, versus the 180 days, any student who misses 18 or more days is considered chronically absent. So when we're pulling that data, it is a very tedious process because you have to look at enrollment by day and then determine that 10% rate.
Do we have, do our current policies support minimizing chronic absenteeism, or are there things that we need to go back and look at to support the school system?
We're always looking for opportunity to support because we understand that attendance is primarily driven from the home. But in school, our biggest, I guess, priority is connection and constant communication. So our people personnel workers, or PPWs, are extremely involved with those high-level absent rates, and they do a lot of home visits and quite a bit of interventions for families, just trying to get them to school, and they partner with our school counselors, our school administrators. There are tiered systems of intervention. So once students miss, for example, 5 days, there's a mode of intervention at a lower level, but it's more universal. And then as students continue to accumulate more days, there are specific strategies that are utilized that are more personalized in order to support getting the child to school. We are also partnered with Attendance Works. MSDE has an attendance workforce that I'm a part of their leadership team. We meet monthly to discuss strategies in order to further our efforts because the governor, Governor Moore, he has a goal for the chronic attendance rates in the state of Maryland to be right around 14%. But we are at the top in Calvert County we're the third best in the state regarding our chronic absenteeism numbers, but we're still too high.
Is it more high school related, middle school, doesn't really matter?
It doesn't. What we find in terms of attendance, however, our data trend has shown that it's more elementary. And a lot of that that's a national trend. And a lot of it is due to building immunity and illness and things of that nature, but sometimes it is mindset that, kindergarten, first grade, those preliminaries don't matter if you miss so much. And so our role is to educate how important it is for students to be present as long as they're not ill, and the impact that has on a child academically. So those are the things that we're working on with partnering with parents currently.
Thank you very much for that. Other questions? Ms. Grenis?
I had a question regarding the parent-teacher conferences. I know in elementary level, you probably get your most conferences. There's a lot more engagement, I think. And teachers are now not only doing face-to-face conferences, but they're also doing virtual conferences. How is it in the middle schools and high schools? Are they doing, is there going to be an increase in conferencing at those levels now that we can do virtual?
So while the elementary schools have a specific day that they do parent-teacher conferences that are carved out for them. It is not uncommon for middle school and high school teachers to meet with parents about their concerns. And they don't have a designated time frame that's carved out for them. So you'll find that many of them are doing those before school or after school in order to meet with the parents. Sometimes they are full teams of teachers that are meeting with one parent and maybe a counselor. But then sometimes it's just the parent and the teacher that wants to meet with that parent about their student and making sure that their students are making progress in the grade. Our hope is that we would increase those opportunities at the middle school and high school. Middle school, I do think you see it drop off as you matriculate through elementary, middle, and high school. But that connection with the parent is very critical. And we want to make sure our parents understand also, as well as our instructional staff, that it's important that we stay in contact with our parents about the progress of our students.
Well, I'm wondering if we extended that to the middle school or the high school, would that increase that engagement? Maybe not the length of time. Well, actually, they have more students, so they would need the time.
Yeah, we did offer an opportunity during the previous calendar years for secondary teachers to meet with their parents during Parent Conference Day. It becomes a little bit more difficult because they're shared. So it takes a lot of coordination to ensure that if 4 teachers want to meet with a parent, that it's coordinated and that it's coordinated at the right time. So I think that we just have to be mindful that it can't be exactly like the elementary schools, but maybe there would be opportunity for secondary teachers to meet with their parents as well.
Thank you.
I just have another question on the chronic absenteeism. So I've heard from, parents, I heard from a parent this year that their child had missed too many days of school. They were sick a lot, this year, had notes, excused absences. But then they were told that they had to go to summer school, even though the student had A's in every single class. Is there a requirement at the state level that if a child misses so many days, they have to go to summer school?
That is not a state-level decision. That is something that was internal prior to my tenure. I can't speak to the origin of that. However, I know that just in best practice, the goal is to ensure that every student has the foundational skills and knowledge to be successful for the next school year. And if a student has missed so many days, it's an opportunity for them to at least get some of that missed instruction made up. So that is the intent of the summer school requirement, understanding that those absences could have been excused through illness, but the child still missed. So we want to provide students with the best opportunity to be successful through the next school year. They may be promoted because those were excused absences, and in order to bridge that gap for them to be as successful as possible, they're encouraged to go to summer school.
Okay, so it's just a recommendation, not a requirement.
That's correct.
I think historically in our attendance process, if students miss a certain number of days, then a parent has to apply for a waiver in order to be promoted to the next grade. So you'll see that, I think it's 24 days at the elementary level, 20, and then 16 at the secondary level. So it decreases as you come through. You raise a really good point. If a student is able to miss that many days and still earn A's and B's, we should be really looking at that carefully to find out what is that gap. So we should be looking at attendance issues very individually, knowing that there's this standard that if you're missing more than the required number of days in the attendance policy and procedures, that we're really digging in to find out why students are missing, and then also how are they performing in class, and then what is the best answer to that. At the high school level, they earn credits, so they have to go to summer school in order to earn those credits. And they have to earn a certain number of credits in order to move to the next grade. So it just compounds as you move further.
And so to just be clear, at the high school level, is attendance part of the requirement to move, not just the grade? It's grade plus number of days in attendance?
So if a student misses more than 16 days of absence from high school, a parent has to apply for a waiver. If a waiver is not given for the attendance policy, then all the grades are reduced. If they have all passing grades, they're reduced to 59s, and otherwise they're reduced at the level that they need to. So they earn no credit because they have not met the attendance standard.
And that's a Calvert County policy, not a state requirement?
I would have to check on that.
It's been around a
There
while.
is an expectation for attendance at the state level. How it's implemented becomes a district decision.
Correct, that's what I was going to say. I mean, the expectation is that students are attending regularly, and that is the general language that's used in law currently. However, I can tell you that based on the partnership with the governor and MSDE, there are going to be much, I would say, stricter, for lack of a better word, standards that probably would allude to maybe more requirements from the state further defining what that attendance might look like if they are not meeting that standard. But as it currently stands, to my knowledge, and I'm happy to follow up as well, there is not clear, it's pretty generic as it relates to the LEA's decision as to how that looks within their individual district.
Okay, thank you.
Historically, it was seat time at the high school level. So you had to have a certain number of hours in every course in order to earn that credit. So seat time has gone away, but that attendance standard has. So when you look at our attendance policy, there isn't a shall, it's may. So it gives a little bit of leeway to families and schools.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say the dashboards look great. You guys did a really good job, so thank you.
Anything else? Nope. Okay. Next, approval of the negotiation teams. Dr. Johnson?
Each year, Calvert County Public Schools seeks approval for the CCPS negotiations teams. Fortunately, Calvert County has secured 4-year contracts with each of our associations. However, we have to designate our negotiations teams annually. So before you are the list of people who are on the negotiations teams for Calvert Education Association, Calvert Association of Educational Support Staff, and Calvert Association of Administrators and Supervisors. And we are asking your approval for our negotiation teams.
Move to
Motion.
approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just have one question, because it's a question that I get all the time. So is there a reason why an elected board member is not a part of a negotiation team?
So it looks different. I would have to get that answer for you. So I don't know specifically if there's an expectation that you can or cannot be. Yeah.
Can we reserve our vote until we get that answer?
No.
Can we reserve our vote until we get the answer?
No.
No.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries 5-0. Next is the approval of the tuition rates.
Good evening, President Post, members of the board. My name is Scott Johnson. I serve as the district's chief financial officer. Each summer, the student tuition rates are developed for the upcoming school year, and the proposed 2025-26 in-state tuition rate is $12,045, and the proposed 2025-26 out-of-state tuition rate is $19,478, as shown on the calculations provided. The recommendation is that the board approve the proposed tuition rates as proposed.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
How much revenue in FY25 did we generate from each of these sources?
I'll be happy to provide that information in the weekly update next week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a question. As a part of the Maryland Blueprint, anyone that gets a seat in pre-K but doesn't meet certain requirements has to pay. Has that started yet?
That has not started. It may be an impact for this year. Currently, right now, we are looking at our enrollment and if there will be any available seats. If there are, we would be looking at students whose families fall up to, I believe it's 360% of the poverty level, which puts them in the tier 2 category if they're between 300 and 360%. In that case, there is a sliding scale that MSDE has determined. They said we cannot go above 360, and they gave us the amount, so we're working through what that would look like. If we do have slots available, probably in mid-September is when we would look at adding enrollment in that category if there's space.
And in that case, do we have to charge that tuition? Or is it we can charge that tuition?
So it is a decision that we have to make, and we have to follow up with MSDE, because at one point in time was if we didn't charge, this is what I would need clarification on, then we would also have to pay that amount for any private providers that are within the grant also. So it would extend out to additional costs for the school system, so we're gonna look at that as we make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Up next, we have the approval of the district assessment plans. Ms. Jacobs.
Good evening, President Post and members of the Board of Education. My name is Jackie Jacobs, and I serve as the Chief Academic Officer for Calvert County Public Schools. This evening, I am here to request your approval of the district assessment plan. This plan reflects the collaborative work of Calvert County Public Schools and the Calvert Education Association Committee, and aligns with the requirements of the Time to Learn Act, ensuring that our assessment practices remain both purposeful and compliant. As background, in 2015, the Maryland General Assembly passed the Time to Learn Act, which requires that all local school systems convene a committee every 2 years to develop an assessment plan. The plan must ensure that the total time spent on required assessments is not more than 2.3% in grade 8 and no more than 2.2% in all other grades. In accordance with this legislation, CCPS convened a joint committee this spring composed of representatives from both Calvert County Public Schools and CEA to review and revise our assessment plan. The documents before you are a result of that collaborative work. You have been provided with 3 documents. The first is on the screen, and it is titled the Bridge to Excellence Assessment Information. This is the official form required by the General Assembly and will be posted on our website. It outlines key characteristics of each assessment, including who mandates the assessment, applicable grade levels and subject areas, testing windows, accommodations for students with disabilities. You will notice that the assessments are organized by school level, elementary, middle, and high school. The next 2 documents are titled Calvert County District Committee on Assessments, and you have one for elementary and one for secondary as noted in the upper right-hand corner. Both documents provide a detailed breakdown of the assessment time by grade level. Each cell shows the total number of minutes allocated for each assessment. On the bottom of each page, you'll see a summary chart that converts those minutes into hours and compares them to the allowable time limits. You'll see that our district assessments remain under the required 2.3 for 8th grade and 2.2 for all other grade levels. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and if there are none, I would respectfully request your approval of our district assessment plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So on this document where it says mandated by state or local, local being mandated by the school system, so we've decided that we have to have these?
Yes.
Okay. It's a lot of them.
Yes, and some of them are specific to like our system-wide assessments. So when we look at in mathematics, And we want to gauge how students are doing over time, coming up to that MCAP assessment at the end of the year. Those would be those predictors, and we try to limit it as much as possible. And that's why when you look at the timing overall, you can see how much time each of those require in total.
With the state requirement of the 2.3%, is that the maximum it's allowed to be?
Yes.
Because we're bumping pretty good up against that, and we need all of these tests. It seems really excessive. I'm just asking.
And a lot of that testing time comes from the actual state assessments. And so when you look at the state assessments, specifically in 8th grade, there is a lot of assessments. So we try to, as much as possible, narrow that down. But when we look at students in 8th grade having to assess at the state level in math, ELA, science, and social studies, and needing some predictors coming up to those, that's where that time kind of expands.
Gotcha. So I get that. It's a lot of tests. Do we need them all? What do most of the educators think? Do we need all of them? Or do some think we're maybe over-testing the kids?
So that's why we have that joint committee with CEA, and we sit down and talk through what those assessments are. And one of the things about this committee and the requirements is to also convene a committee to talk about what is the impact of those assessments? Are we getting reliable data? Is it showing us what we need? So that's another piece of this committee, is to really look at, is that assessment needed? So that's another part of it. So this is the first part of what those times are. And then in that next iteration, we come back to look at, is there redundancy? Are we assessing too much? So that is also part of the committee work.
And so this is the minutes required for each of these elements.
Yes.
Okay. Where do you track the score, the composite score of all of that activity?
So when you say composite score, composite time, or are you talking about how the students performed on those assessments?
So I think what I'd like to see is, are we tracking improvement or worsening of these tests?
So all of our system-wide assessments are in Performance Matters platform. That platform allows us to, one, see how much time the students took to take the assessments. It shows us how the students scored on individual items. It also shows us the data behind that and the analytics to determine whether it was an appropriate question, an inappropriate question. Was it an easy question? Was it a difficult question? So we have a lot of analytics within that platform for our system-wide assessments. Our universal screeners, such as iReady and NWEA, which universal screeners are required by MSD for us to give, those platforms do have the analytics within there for us to see our students growing. So we really look at growth versus proficiency within those platforms. And then we do get our state level testing data back, and that also goes in our Performance Matters platform so that we can compare those things.
So that's tracking by student ID, or is it highlighting
It is tracked
folks
by
that
the
are-
individual student, and then we can also look at that same data by teacher, by classroom, and by school.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Next, we will move into the public comment portion of our evening.
The Board of Education permits the public to address the board on issues of concern. The number of speakers is limited to 30. When you are called to speak, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes. Persons on the sign-up sheet may not convey, transfer, or relinquish any part of their speaking time to another person or group. If you have handouts or written testimony, please give them to Karen Maxey to be distributed to board members. To protect individual confidentiality, please do not mention specific students or staff members in your remarks. All comments are to be made in a civil manner. Anyone not following these guidelines will be asked to stop speaking and may forfeit their right to speak at future board meetings. Please understand that while the Board of Education values your comments and concerns, this is a business meeting and the board cannot respond to your questions or enter into a discussion with you during the meeting. Calvert County Public Schools will respond to the issues you raise if you provide your contact information when you sign in. Written comments are welcome at any time. For more information, please contact the administrative assistant to the Board of Education.
Our first speaker is Deborah Harris.
Push, green. All right. Good evening. My name is Deborah Harris, and I'm the president of the NAACP of Calvert County. On behalf of the NAACP Calvert branch, the Maryland State NAACP, and the National NAACP Board of Directors that are present with us this evening, we are here today to express our deep concern regarding recent decisions by the board to remove the anti-racism policy from the school district's strategic plan and related policies. These actions taken without transparent explanation or public engagement send a troubling message to the students, families, and educators who have long advocated for equitable and inclusive education environments. Efforts to create an inclusive school system where all students feel supported and affirmed regardless of race, ethnicity, background, or identity are not political agendas. They are essential components of a safe and effective learning environment. Removing language that acknowledges racism, supports DEI, and affirms equity undermines years of progress and marginalized communities that historically and currently face systematic barriers. Furthermore, the lack of public discussion, stakeholder engagement, or a clear rationale from the board regarding these changes is unacceptable. As stewards of public education, you have a duty to be transparent and accountable to the diverse communities you serve. Calvert NAACP have received complaints from students who've been called the N-word at school, and many times appropriate follow-through and consequences do not occur. However, since this policy has been in place, it's been an effective tool that has provided a framework where staff and students could refer to and resolve issues. This is part one. Part two is coming.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Michael Hawkins.
Good evening, Board. My name is Michael Hawkins. Without explanation from the Board as to why you removed diversity and support from the mission statement and are now intending to remove the anti-racism policy, we are left to draw our own conclusions about why these actions were taken. We clearly see it's a political and not evidence-based decision. It's not a decision that would move us closer from a good school system to a great school system. So we must also conclude that if you are against diversity, you must be for exclusion. This means certain children who may have disabilities or not of the majority race will be excluded from the best education possible. We draw a conclusion that if you are against support for our children, you must be for neglecting some that are serving now. If you are against anti-racism, you must be in support of racism in our schools. If these conclusions are the reasons why you have taken these actions, the NAACP Calvert and many members of this community represented today demand that you consider who you have pledged to serve as a member of the Calvert County Board of Education. You were not elected to serve a political agenda, but to serve the school-aged children, families, and our community. We are requesting the board to respond in writing to us in reference to the following questions. What is the rationale from removing anti-racism? Is there a commitment to equitable education by restoring inclusive language? What is your plan to engage directly with community stakeholders, including families of color, advocacy organizations, educators, and students, in future policy decisions? And to provide data and metrics to demonstrate how the district will continue to ensure equitable access, fair discipline practices, culturally responsive instruction, and a safe environment for all. The NAACP state.
Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry, please
Our
refrain
next-
from
Our
clapping.
next speaker
This is a business
is
meeting.
Sylvia Baton.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sylvia Batong. I'm a family physician, been practicing in Calvert County for too long. No, actually, since 1992. The Calvert County Public School Board has extirpated DEI from the school mission statement and policy. The board members have bought the MAGA line that anti-racism and honoring the lives of all children, families in Calvert harms the white population. MAGA seeks to maintain white supremacy by dividing our people with fear-mongering, book banning, limiting free speech for faculty, and denying access to safe spaces for our students. Let's face it, ultimately MAGA would like to replace public education altogether with charter schools and parochial schools funded by taxes using vouchers, education savings accounts, and taxpayer-funded scholarships. Anti-racism recognizes the sins of the past on which our country was founded: slavery, genocide, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, school-to-prison pipeline, and restriction of access to the vote. Being woke means we know the truth of our past. We rise to overcome the lingering harms, resist efforts to resurrect those injustices, and work to form a more perfect union of our diverse nation. Education with anti-racism is the essence of patriotism and love for our people and our country. Turn back from this misguided, shameful effort. Keep anti-racism in the mission and policy of the Board of Education. The language reflects a 2-year community-wide conversation that was intended to build a more just and equitable school system. Thank you.
Our next speaker.
Wait 1 second, Dr. Johnson. Please refrain from applause. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Edsel Brown.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, and fellow citizens. My name is Edsel Brown. Capacities as chairman of the Southern Maryland Minority Chamber of Commerce and as a proud brother of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Sigma Alpha Lambda Chapter, the first intercollegiate Greek letter fraternity established for African American men dedicated to scholarship, leadership, and justice. We are deeply concerned by this board's abrupt removal of the anti-racism resolution from the Student Code of Conduct and the scheduled consideration to dismantle Policy 1018. Let me be clear. This is more than a symbolic gesture. This decision signals to every student of color, every marginalized family, and every community ally that their lived experiences may longer be seen, acknowledged, or protected by the school system. At the Chamber, we work daily with minority entrepreneurs, parents, and youth, many of whom are graduates or current students of Calvert County Public Schools. They do not want less accountability in the face of discrimination. They want assurance that the district affirms equity, opportunity, and dignity for all. As Alpha men, we are taught that a voteless people is a hopeless people. But what does it say when the voices of students, parents, educators, and stakeholders are dismissed without public discussion or transparency? Removing this policy weakens, not strengthens our district. Maryland law requires that we fight discrimination. The anti-racism resolution didn't divide us, it unified us under shared values, values that are now being called into question. We urge you not to retreat in the face of political pressure, but to lead with principle. Keep policy 1018 intact, restore the resolution to the code of conduct, and signal that Calvert County Public Schools will stand on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Cheryl Falentz. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
So that is my name, Cheryl Falentz. I'm a retired teacher. It's unbelievable to see you've already voted earlier in this meeting to repeal the anti-racism policy before you heard from us. We have to be very careful in this current fractious political climate. I fear that you are opening Pandora's box, freeing what I call the Charlottesville mentality. In Charles County, not long ago, a teacher used social media to give the Nazi salute and called some of her children of color the N-word, just like President Harris referred to, before she was fired because they had an anti-racism policy in Charles County.
Excuse me, we will clear the room.
In PG County in 2017, the white FOP took the election to mean that they could be abusive to their fellow Black and Latino police officers until PG was sued in a class action suit for $16 million by the ACLU. So, have you thought about the repercussions of removing anti-racism from the student code of conduct? Teachers have been struggling to manage the behavior in all our public school systems in the area. You should be doing training for conflict resolution, not stirring up racial animus. You heard about bullying tonight, right over here. Whitewashing the issue of racism does not make it go away. You are aware that the Smithsonian has been ordered to remove the counter where young men were beaten in order to achieve integration. Everyone in this county and our state will be watching what you did tonight. For God's sake.
Comments.
Our next speaker is Kimberly Robinson.
Good evening, President Post and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to express support for Policy 1018, anti-racism. My name is Kimberly Robinson, and I make this statement as a concerned citizen and an advocate for public school education. I commend the board's commitment to fostering a respectful and supportive educational environment as an essential step towards ensuring every student is treated with dignity and fairness. Policy 1018 is not only a safeguard against injustice, but also a proactive measure to help all students feel safe, respected, and reach their highest potential. It provides educators and administrators with guidance and on addressing incidents appropriately and creating an educational atmosphere of mutual respect within our schools. In closing, I understand and appreciate that all policies should be periodically reviewed to ensure effectiveness and alignment with the needs of the students and their families. I believe Policy 1018 is still essential and should continue to serve as a foundation for supporting a learning atmosphere free from discrimination, bias, and harmful practices. I respectfully urge the board to reinstate Policy 1018, which nurtures unity, empathy, and analytical thinking within our schools. Thank you for your continued commitment and for your allowing the community to engage in this important conversation. I look forward to your leadership ensuring this policy remains in place and continues to reflect the highest standards of respect and responsibilities in education. Let us advance together with resolve, transparency, compassion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Pamela Cousins.
Pamela Cousins. We the People, Calvert County, is a powerful advocacy group mobilized to defend equity and justice for the citizens in Calvert County. Currently, there are 586 verified supporters who have signed our Change.org petition to challenge racism in Calvert County. Fun fact, for anyone who didn't know, Maryland has 24 school districts. Guess how many have intentionally placed public comment at the end of their action items on their agenda? 2, Calvert and Washington counties. And both just coincidentally changed to this unacceptable move to silence the public in February of 2025. Since the board has decided to ignore public input and unanimously voted to repeal Policy 1018 on anti-racism, doing what is supposed to be policies for review, and posted for 4 weeks to receive public input, I'll simply say, I'm disappointed by your decision. I'm embarrassed as a former school board member to witness state officers use this platform to implement personal goals. I'm more determined to continue challenging your actions and continuing to sit at this table.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Andrea Chris Banks.
Good evening, President Post and Calvert Board of Education. My name is Andrea Chris Banks, member of the Calvert branch of the NAACP, and I live in Huntingtown. I'm not going to repeat some of the things that have already been said, but I'm going to approach it this way. Instead of anti-racism policy, why not consider policy components that work? Check with Montgomery County, Maryland, where there was 25% improvement in school climate surveys, or Portland, Oregon public schools, where there was significant reduction in achievement gaps. Consider professional development that provides cultural competency workshops for staff or restorative justice practices instead of punitive discipline. Also seek family and community input sessions regularly and more curriculum changes which will build critical thinking skills about bias and stereotypes. Did you know that business leaders increasingly demand graduates with cultural competencies? The ability to work with all cultures and celebrate differences and contributions of all groups to our society. Along with another speaker, I too urge that the board respond in writing to the NAACP in reference to the rationale for removing anti-racism and DEI language from policies and strategic plans. And as was about to be said, provide data and metrics to demonstrate how the district will continue to ensure equitable access, fair discipline practices, and culturally responsive instruction, as well as a safe and positive environment for all. The NAACP stands ready to work collaboratively with you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Mike Schishler.
Good evening, President Post, Ms. Goshorn, Ms. Grenis, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Marcio, our student member of the board, Dr. Johnson, Ms. Jacobs, and Mr. Johnson. Board members, I have a few recurring questions for you tonight, beginning with, what are you afraid of? Let's do a quick review of your first 7 months in office. Let's take the CCPS mission statement. Let's get rid of the word inclusive. What are you afraid of? Our trans kids? Our LGBTQ kids? Our special ed kids? Our kids of color? Let's turn the drama to the safe space stickers. What are you afraid of? Again, is it our LGBTQ kids? Is it our trans kids? Is it our depressed and suicidal kids? Is it our kids who feel lost and alone? You presume that safe space stickers are a ruse for teacher pedophiles. Give us a break. Next, it's the anti-racism statement in the Code of Conduct and on all CCPS materials. What are you afraid of? The R word really does strike a nerve, doesn't it? Have you read Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist? It's a tough read, especially for white folks like you and me. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Anti-racism means being against all of the isms, not just racial prejudice, but gender prejudice, economic prejudice, ethnic prejudice, sexual orientation prejudice, mental ability prejudice. Anti-racism means being against putting people in boxes and excluding them. What are you afraid of? People, kids, adults that are different from you? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Stay healthy.
Our next speaker is Amanda Racer.
Hi, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you for the community for speaking and sticking around. I'm gonna try not to cry because this is so deeply important to me and my kids. I grew up here. My dad's a high school dropout. My mom's a high school graduate. My dad's blue collar, and they worked their butts off so that I could go to college. And I did. And it opened so many doors for me. I'm not saying college I'm not here to preach college for everybody. What I'm getting at is education was the key for me to experience so much more than I ever could, and to give my children so much more than my parents could for me. That's not just a feeling, it's a statistic. I'm so grateful for my public education, and every kid, including my biracial brown children, deserve what I got, okay? Thank God I didn't go to school nowadays where we have to be concerned about our physical safety. These poor kids have to think about their schools potentially getting shot up. We cannot afford to take away their psychological safety. They need to be seen. This is a public position. These are public schools. The public looks so different than when I grew up here. I think that's a great thing. And we must protect it and make it safe for everybody. When you sit there and take away policies, I can't buy the redundant thing, because when you take something away, I'm telling you as a parent of brown children, it signals that they're less than, that they don't deserve something. That's protection. So what if it's there? It's extra protection. It doesn't hurt anybody, but when you take it away, it hurts people that are different than how you and I look. And so I'm saying that as people that represent public education, please represent all public. Sorry, I didn't realize there was a timer up here. I got 15 more seconds. Every one of these kids deserve to be seen. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Ella Ennis.
Good evening. I'm Ella Ennis, and I live in Port Republic. And I came here tonight to urge you to replace that 2018 anti-racism policy with one that encourages respect for all students, families, teachers, and staff, with positive ideas instead of negative goals, and to have a commitment to the academic achievement of all students. Currently, in Calvert County, the statistics say that 34% of the students can do math on grade level, and that 54% read on grade level. This is unacceptable, and it is unjust to the students. We need a policy with a plan, with actual achievement milestones to increase the number of students who can read on grade level and do math on grade level by 15% per year increase in that ability, so that in 3 years you would have near 100% of the students reading on grade level and doing math on grade level. Not the 10 years that's laid out in the state's blueprint for the future. The students in middle school and high school can't wait 10 years. We need the plan, the goals, and actual measuring milestones so that all the children, regardless of race or sex or any other thing, are achieving on grade level. And I urge you to have such a policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Diane O'Leary.
Hi, I'm Diane O'Leary. We began this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, with liberty and justice for all. And that means all, not just the whites among us. There's nothing more American than that. All men are created equal from the Declaration of Independence. There's nothing more American than that. Our students need to be taught this. Our staff needs to abide by this. And it means that white supremacy is anti-American, because that's saying that we are not all created equal. It's important to have that policy in place because of the history in this county and in the nation. The Calvert County school system does have a racist history, unfortunately. Consider its actions around the time of the Supreme Court decision on separate but equal. But even more recently, 2024, 2 middle schoolers displayed swastikas. 2020, high school students vandalized athletic fields with racist graffiti. This made national news and was a tremendous blot on our reputation, on our value as a county. There are countless other incidents, both large and small. That's what makes racism very special in all of the discrimination possibilities in the county. So that's why anti-racism deserves its own policy, deserves being called out in a special way. Racism is still widespread in this county, and it does impede the learning of many of our students. So we have a duty, our first duty as a public school system is to teach our students to be good citizens. And they're not going to be good citizens unless they believe this liberty and justice for all. We have a duty to teach them that all men are created equal. The past anti-racism policy did that, and I encourage you to reinstate it and to put diversity back into a priority for this county. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Tim O'Leary.
Thank you for having me. As an Irishman, I know what erasure looks like. For 400 years, the English tried to erase the Irish language and culture. My grandparents emigrated to America, and someone in my family has worn the uniform in every single conflict since World War I. As a medical officer myself, and later as an Army senior executive, I served with men and women, people who were black and white, gay and straight, members of all religions, people who were able-bodied, and people who were disabled, both physically and mentally. And I was proud to serve with all of them. Anti-racism and pro-diversity statements and policies are doing nothing more than honoring all the brave women and men who have made our country great. from George Washington to George Washington Carver, today's airmen, soldiers, sailors, and Marines, who represent all of those groups. When we repeal an anti-racism policy, it isn't neutral. The repeal sends a message, and I think you know it. Your vote today dishonors those heroes. I ask you to reverse your vote and support inclusion for all, not erasure and exclusion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Dennis Bowling.
Good evening, Ms. Post and the board. As a proud American and a Navy veteran, I just want to thank you for all you do, and I think we got the best Board of Education members. Y'all work together, solve some difficult issues, and I just want to say that I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Noah Beal.
All right, hello everybody. Thank you for giving me a chance to talk. My name is Noah Bell. I am a resident of Calvert County. I grew up here my whole life. I attended Plum Point Elementary, Calvert Elementary, Plum Point Middle, and then I graduated from Huntingtown High in 2016. I was in school before this policy was enacted, and it really warms my heart to hear how the NAACP was able to testify on how it was made better when the policy was enacted. I can tell you with no uncertain view that when I was in school, hate had a home in our school system. You know, our school system has a history of hate. It is no coincidence that we opened our first private school during the Civil Rights Movement in Calvert County. There is a history of hate here, and if we do not systematically erase it with good policy, it will come back to us. And when you have people framing these policies, they always say, oh, it's attacking us white people. They will say it'll make us ashamed of being white. They'll teach our children to feel lesser than people of color. But what is more shameful than refusing to acknowledge our past mistakes? What is more cowardly than erasing and covering up pain that we have caused others? We can only move forward in history by acknowledging our troubled past. And any coverings up of this will only ensure we repeat it. That is why I support Policy 1018, and I'm against its removal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Inez Claggett.
My name is Inez Capone, formerly Inez Claggett, and I am here to implore you, not merely to request, but to demand that you reverse your action to remove Policy 1018 on anti-racism. The decision to even revisit this policy early is a betrayal of the fundamental values our schools claim to uphold: equality, inclusion, and respect for each student and staff member. Your actions tonight are a dangerous regression, a deliberate choice to normalize silence and complicity in the face of racism. Policy 1018 was not some symbolic gesture. It was a commitment posted for all to see that Calvert County Public Schools will denounce racism, bullying, and white supremacy in all forms, and that our district would not tolerate the values and structures that perpetuate systemic racism. Removing this policy signals to each student, especially students of color, that their safety, their dignity, and their futures are negotiable, setting a tone that bigotry is acceptable as long as it makes the powerful comfortable. Are you so naive to think racism ended because it made you uncomfortable? Accounts from students and staff prove otherwise. Racism is not some abstract political talking point, but a lived daily reality that directly threatens academic achievement and emotional well-being. You cannot claim to cultivate an empowering learning environment by removing a policy that holds adults accountable for that promise. The world is watching, our students are watching. You just announced publicly that justice and equity in Calvert County are up for debate. You are quickly becoming the board whose legacy will be cowardice and abandonment. Stand on the right side of history, re-adopt Policy 1018, and fulfill your obligation to each student. And to the community, please exercise your right to vote these turkeys out of office.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is William Godwin.
I'm William Goodwin. I've lived all my life in Southern Maryland except for 1 year as an infant in World War II. At every age, starting at 7 years old, and in every stage of my life, every arena of my life, I've witnessed racism, whether it was family, friends, colleagues, adjacent industries and people, and it has galled and wounded me seeing how they've been held back while I advanced. What I think of with this policy reversal on your part and calling it redundant reminded me of the argument that was expressed when hate crime legislation came up. A friend of mine whom I have the first memory of in 1949 said, we don't need that. I mean, murder is murder, assault is assault, just prosecute that. Even that wildly disingenuous person of Rush Limbaugh said similar things. Bottom line to whether it's hate crimes or this policy, with the hate crimes, there are two victims, the one who's been assaulted on directly and the community to which a message was being sent. You are sending a message tonight. By reversing that policy, by repealing it, you've basically told the community you don't care. The anti-discrimination is something that's enforced passively, if anybody cares, if anybody's watching. Anti-racism policy was proactive. It demonstrates through action that you care about the people who've been victimized by the past and you don't want it to continue in the future. Please revisit this policy.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Ash Ashleman.
Hi, Ash Ashelman here. Have you ever been judged for your skin tone? Has anyone ever called you slurs or told you to go back to your own country because your skin is white? Have you ever been on the receiving end of physical violence because you're white? No, you haven't. My family has. My friends have. Strangers I've never met surely have. I've seen it on the streets and I've seen it in schools. My 5-year-old baby sister comes home from pre-K and tells me that she wishes she has pretty skin. Skin like my mom, dad, or I. No matter how much I tell her that she is beautiful, that her hair is cute, and that she never has to change herself to be more white, the seeds have already been planted. I see how she stares at herself in the mirror. I hear her whisper to herself that she wishes she looked more like us. All because her primarily white classmate, children her own age, are already spewing racist remarks to her. Remarks that couldn't have developed themselves. Remarks that reveal the racist undertones that a large population of this country still holds. The child I raised alongside my parents should not be coming to me crying because a kid made fun of her hair and rubbed her in her scalp. My 5-year-old baby sister should not be coming home after school and asking me what the N word with a hard R meant. My 14-year-old sister should not be regaling me about the casually racist remarks she receives from her peers about her academic capabilities. One of my best friends shouldn't have to beg administrators to do something about the pack of guys following them around in the hallways yelling racist remarks. My friends and I shouldn't have to take down our club signs because people have written racist remarks and drawn swastikas. And this is with the anti-racist policy in place. I can't imagine what it'll be like when it's removed. Racism hasn't gone away, it's just become infinitesimally more covert. People like you more willing to turn a blind eye to it. I'm assuming my time is almost up. 4,600 students out of your 15,400 student population are of color. You're failing all of them. As my closing remark, an unsafe learning environment is no learning environment at all. We are not asking you, and we're not imploring you. We as the public are telling you to reinstate it.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Nancy Kraus.
Good evening, board and concerned citizens. This is a massive crowd. It's pretty impressive, and I hope you listen to what people say. I only recently began to pay attention to our school board. I heard, pardon me? It's on live. Thank you. Is it on now? Is it on now? Whoa. It's not, I'm sorry, what?
Said I heard you fine.
Oh, that's because I'm loud. It's not on?
It's on.
Okay, sorry. I only recently began to pay attention to our school board. I heard it was nonpartisan, that politics should not be a part of this board. I have been a poll judge several times and understood that if you are registered as an independent, you can only vote for school board positions in the primary, since those positions are not party affiliated. If that doesn't say the board should not be political, I don't know what does. Yet here I sit before you, asking you to not play politics with our children, to not follow the Project 2025 playbook, to keep our children first, to raise an open-minded and loving generation. The definition of anti-racism is the practice of actively identifying and opposing racism. Are we practicing that in this county? If anyone in this room feels that racism has left our county, I would encourage you to take a seminar on implicit bias. I'm sure there will be some speakers who refer to COMAR or various other guidelines. I'm not one of those. I'm speaking from my heart and my passion and asking that kindness be returned to our schools, that safe stickers be returned. By removing them, are we telling our kids that school is not a safe space? We have heard over these working sessions, several students say they do not feel safe in school, that bullying continues. Are we saying we don't believe their feelings? Are we saying they haven't been bullied? We have to listen to our children. They are our future. And thank you for staying and not getting up and leaving.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Sherry Tardio.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Tardio. 5 white board members decide to remove the CCPS anti-racism policy with the flimsy excuse of redundancy. Shame on all of you. Ms. Goshorn, you already tried to sue CCPS over this policy and lost. Rather than use that as an opportunity to reflect and learn, this board has doubled down and wants to end the policy. Quote, "The question is, where is the racism today in Calvert County Public Schools?" That was a statement from you, Ms. Goshorn, in a Baynet article from 2021. Did any one of you ask the students? I bet they could tell you where it is. Does this board remember the racist graffiti on the football field of Calvert High? How about the anti-Semitic statements and threats at Plum Point Middle School? Was the threatening graffiti with swastikas in the girls' bathroom at Patuxent High School last year ever reported publicly or denounced? How about the effigy that was found hanging in a tree where our former superintendent and his children could view it? This county has a problem that some people do not want to acknowledge, and if it's not acknowledged, it cannot be fixed. This leads me to believe that you don't care if racism continues to thrive in our schools. You believe that white children shouldn't learn about racism while children of color continue to experience it. They hear the slurs and bear the brunt of lower expectations and harsher discipline. This is the white privilege that you don't believe exists. There was one statement from the article in 2021 with which I wholeheartedly agree. Ms. Goshorn, you stated that if there are people in the school system that are racist, they need to be removed. I hope that each one of you is removed at your next election.
Thank you for your comment.
Our next speaker is Danielle Pock.
Board members, Danielle Pock, Huntingtown mom. I'm actually really looking forward to your response to the NAACP, because if you think anti-racism is redundant, I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that you don't know what it means. And if you don't know what it means, you certainly have no business repealing it. It's actually embarrassing that we all have to come down here and explain why Calvert County still needs an anti-racism policy. This county wrestles with open hate all of the time. As everyone said, it's been spray painted on our football fields. It's not a rumor that Calvert is racist. It's not a quirky stereotype. It's a very real reality. And we need Policy 1018 because this reality and you all exist. Side note, political neutrality is actually kind of hilarious. Each one of you ran on hefty GOP checks and packed this meeting with your partisan squads earlier this year. Meanwhile, real problems keep piling up. Speech language pathologists are scarce, and my child has teletherapy from someone who doesn't even live in the state. If board-driven culture wars keep wrecking staff morale and derailing IEP services, you all will be held accountable. Stop chasing flags, stickers, and your neutrality jokes. Keep Policy 1018 intact and get back to the work that the students and teachers actually need. Calvert families are watching, but so are the courts and compliance boards, guys.
Our next speaker is Camille Khaleesi.
Camille Khaleesi. As a human resources executive, I make every effort to not bring my personal agenda to the boardroom and consider the perspectives of all employees of a company. As a special needs advocate, I aim to bring voice to a population who at times, inclusive of my son, is challenged by verbal speech. As a board member, I would have acted on behalf of what was best for all CCPS students, yet you sit here and push your personal agendas and desires upon everyone else. The anti-racism policy was not redundant. The five of you sitting here epitomizing groupthink and having scripted responses rather than developing responses based on feedback received is redundant. While schools may have policies to address discrimination, they also need specific anti-racism policies because racism is a deeper, more systemic issue than individual acts of discrimination. Discrimination policies primarily address unfair treatment based on race. However, anti-racism policies go further by actively working to identify and dismantle the structures, practices, and norms that create and perpetuate racial inequities within the school system. This distinction matters because A, it addresses the root causes of inequity. Discrimination policies often react to individual incidents. Anti-racism policies, on the other hand, aim to proactively address the underlying systemic issues that lead to disparities in educational outcomes, discipline, and access to opportunities for students of color. B, it moves beyond passive non-discrimination. Simply not discriminating isn't enough to counteract the historical and ongoing effects of racism. Anti-racism requires actively working to create equitable and inclusive environments. C, it empowers and affirms students. Anti-racism policies aim to create school environments where all students, especially students of color, feel valued, respected, and have a sense of belonging. And D, it cultivates a more just society. Anti-racism education helps students develop critical thinking skills, understand the impact of racism, and prepare them to advocate for and contribute to a more just and equitable society.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Yvonne Cameron.
Von Cameron, President Post, board members, and my fellow Calvert County residents. I stand before you as a concerned resident of Calvert County who believes deeply in the promise of American education. 71 years ago, the Supreme Court declared in Brown versus Board of Education that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal, and that Equal Protection Clause demands we provide every child, regardless of race, with an equal opportunity to learn and thrive. Yet here we are in 2025, and the data still glaringly shows us uncomfortable truths. Achievement gaps persist, disciplinary disparities continue, and the barriers to advanced coursework remain. Policy statements like 1018, they don't create division. It acknowledges what we already know exists. Will we continue to coddle our personal bias? And will we run and embrace institutional racism in our school system? Or will we hold to the constitutional mandate we have carried since 1954? A policy like 1018, it's not about politics. It's about our legal and moral obligations under the 14th Amendment. It's about Maryland's blueprint for the future, which invests $3.8 billion annually, because we know that Maryland must remain competitive.
Thank you for your comments.
Our neighboring communities watch us, and our children observe our
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Lola Waite.
Hello. Okay, thank you. Good evening, President Post and members of the board. My name is Lola Waite, and I'm a rising sophomore at Calvert High School. And this is my first time speaking at a board meeting. And I've been thinking a lot about all the conversations happening around public education lately, not just here, but across the country. There's been a lot of debate and a lot of changes, and I think for students like me, it feels hard to keep up with all of it. And I know there are big decisions being made about budgets, programs, and policies. I also know that most students and families want to feel prepared, informed, and supported, especially heading into a new school year. That's why I'm here tonight to respectfully ask if the board would consider holding a public town hall in the coming weeks, not as a replacement for these meetings, but as a different kind of space. Something open and accessible where the board and the community can speak with each other more directly, ask questions, and talk about what's coming ahead. I understand that these meetings are public, but most people don't know how they work or feel confident speaking in a setting like this. A town hall would make it easier for more people to feel included and connected in the important conversations that are being had. Thank you for your time and for listening.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Our next speaker is Henry Nicholas or Nichols. Our next speaker is Sinitra Baldry.
Good afternoon. My name is Sinitra Baldry, and I am the president of the Concerned Black Women of Calvert County. I'm speaking on behalf of my organization and myself as an individual. I'm going to start at the end because I want to make sure this is heard. Project 2025 has dubbed most of our panel as MEGA, M-A-G-A, Make America Great Again. I want to let you know that you will be the MEGA, M-A-G-A-B-O-E, of this century, and that you will be this will be a part of your legacy. You will be remembered for your actions and plans that fit a system and not a people. My definition of MEGA, my assumptions, goes awry. During this session, President Post said, "Is there a policy for absenteeism?" She immediately went to absenteeism and a policy. So we know that you understand policy. National evidence says that schools with inclusive policies show improved test scores across all democratic or demographic groups. They have reduced suspension and disciplinary disparities. They have increased graduation rates and college enrollment. They have better teaching retention and job satisfaction. They have better attendance. Key benefits for inclusive policies is that 75% of students report feeling safer in schools and inclusive policies. 60% improvement in cross-cultural friendships. 40% reduction in bias-related incidents. And 85% of parents support anti-racism educational initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Miriam Canning.
Hello. Let me start with something that should be obvious to everyone. Nobody who wants the anti-racism policy removed is arguing against protecting students from racism or discrimination. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have a legal and moral obligation to protect students from unfair treatment based on their race, and these commitments are reflected in our non-discrimination and equity policies. The issue isn't whether we should fight racism. We absolutely should. The real question is how we do it. The CCPS anti-racism policy and the broader concept of anti-racism itself represents a radicalized approach to equity, one that uses racial discrimination as a tool for redistributing resources and opportunities. As Ibram X. Kendi, a leading anti-racism apologist, openly states, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy for present discrimination is future discrimination. That is not equality, that is not justice, that's institutionalizing discrimination under a new label, and we should call it what it is. This policy has been in place for 5 years, yet not a single racist policy or staff member has been identified. We're told gifted program disparities are due to institutional barriers, but no barriers are named. Often what's called a barrier is simply a standard. The policy pushes for increased minority hiring, implying race should outweigh qualifications. This is textbook systemic racism. Disproportionate suspension rates are framed as bias, yet no evidence shows our code of conduct is unfairly applied. Abandoning discipline standards for statistical symmetry isn't fairness, it's negligence. And by promoting white privilege and white supremacy as barriers while explicitly favoring students of color, this policy doesn't promote inclusion, it promotes racial scapegoating. And yes, kids absorb that message. Our focus must shift away from ideology and back towards evidence-based interventions that meet actual student needs. We don't need to tear down one race to uplift another. We don't need to assume that racism is behind every gap, and we certainly don't need policies that tell children their skin color determines their success or their guilt. I support this board in its removal of our current anti-racism policy, its accompanying procedures, and any other politically driven initiative.
Thank you for your comments.
Politically driven initiative imposed.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Stacy Mealy.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stacy Mealy, and I've been here probably 3 years ago when I actually made a difference with the playgrounds. So I'm the reason why, and I'm the one that filed the discrimination case. So here I am again in front of you 3 years later. I stand before you as a mother to a remarkable little girl who has lifelong and life-threatening disabilities. I am here today to be her voice and the voice of all the rest of the kids just like her. My goal today is to remind you that minorities and kids with disabilities are forgotten and overlooked by you. Perfect example today. Not once did I see special needs on the board as part of the strategic plan. Not once did I see anything to be addressed, even though you guys have IEP and 504 metrics on there. I can keep going. I have asked for 4 years that there is a communication device, one in the county, that will allow nonverbal kids to be able to use it and teachers to be able to train. And yet again, I see $70,000+ being sent for some training to Washington, D.C., instead of spent on special needs kids. With that said, removing words like inclusive or speaking that DEI is some kind of a bad combination of words will not remove my child from the school system. Exactly the opposite. We are not going anywhere. This is her civil right. This is her constitutional right. And if I have to fight it with a civil law and file lawsuits, I will do it. Try me again. Okay, so there we go. We will have to work together. We will have to create an environment for all students. You can silence me, but I'll be back again.
Thank you for your comment.
Our next speaker is Kessa Thompson. Our next speaker is Kessa Thompson.
Testing. Good evening. I am Kessa Thompson, and I am here as a concerned parent on behalf of my rising 9th grader and rising kindergartner. I have a question for each of the board members. Have you ever been called a racial slur? In fact, how many of you are familiar with racial slurs? Being a born and bred Mississippi native and recognizing the harm I have experienced, harsh and racist words such as honky, gook, chink, haji, wetback, spick, and being a Black woman, I have personally been called nigger, not the N, hard R, the word. How do you think you would respond? A better question would be, how would you want your principals, teachers, or students to respond, even your children? While often used interchangeably, racism and discrimination are distinct but intertwined concepts. So I understand how you could be confused and provide your misleading reason to remove the anti-racism policy because of redundancy with the discrimination policy. Just to be clear, racism is a more specific and systemic form of discrimination. Racism involves a belief system of racial superiority and oppressive distribution of power. So to compare the question of which came first, the chicken or the egg, racism is the starting point. It fuels discrimination. The current discrimination policy is too vague to truly protect against racist attacks. So before I take my seat, it is important to note the long-lasting effects to individuals who experience racist comments. Racism impacts mental and emotional health, physical health, and academic performance and educational outcomes. Let me be clear, racism is real. It's very real in Calvert County, and is publicly verified. It's real amongst members of this Board of Education.
Thank you for your
By
comments.
removing the racist policy,
Thank you for your comments.
now know your answer to my earlier question.
Our next speaker is Priscilla Bradley. She's the case vice president speaking for 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Priscilla Bradley. My pronouns are she, her. I speak today not only as a community member, as a parent, but also as a proud union advocate. I serve as the vice president of CASE, and I am speaking for the rights and safety and dignity of every student and worker in our schools. Your decision to remove the anti-racism resolution and the safe stay stickers is more than disappointing. It is a direct threat to the protection that every educator and student deserves. When you silence anti-racism work, you make our schools less safe for staff of color. When you remove the symbols of safety for LGBTQ+ students, you undermine the very work educators do every day to create inclusive learning environments. The erasing of these items opens the door for discrimination. It creates unsafe working conditions, and it paves the path that dehumanizes students and endangers staff. We are talking about issues of humanity. Humanity is not an option. Safety is not political. Silence is not protection. Through all of this, my question to you is why? Why? Why is it necessary to target marginalized populations in this community? Why is it necessary to dehumanize our staff and students? That's all I have. Why?
Thank you for your comments.
That concludes our speakers for this evening.
If everybody can go, the whole room. You go now. Clear the room, please. Clear the room. Clear the room. Clear the room. Officer, please clear the room. Officer, clear the room. The whole room. Officers, if we could do this expeditiously because our meeting has not concluded. We still have our board comments left. Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move into the board comment portion of our evening. I'll turn to the student member of the board. Can you shut the doors, please?
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that was here tonight. I learned a lot of valuable information tonight from presentations and just from observing and listening. Thank you to those of you who gave presentations. It's given me a lot of insight to the goals of our county and for our schools, and there are great goals that I really look forward to helping our county work towards. So just thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Marchio?
I have no further comments at this time.
Mr. Harrison?
Oh, I have a lot to say.
Okay, well, it's 10 o'clock.
So I will tell you, and I think it's sad because I have a tremendous respect for everyone. I've raised my kids the same way. But I think what you have to understand is that, we were elected by the citizens of Calvert County. And I was elected by 27,000 citizens of Calvert County. So someone tonight said that there were 586 people that made some comment on change.org. That's great. But change.org happens on election day. It doesn't happen over the internet. It happens on election day. So if you want to get out and you want to support people who run against me or whatever, do it. That's democracy. That's the process. But I was elected by 27,000 Calvert County citizens on a platform that I'm fulfilling. So if you want to do something different, you got to get out there and you got to politic and you got to donate, because it costs a lot of money to win this seat. You got to raise some money. And all these protests and signs and all that stuff, that's great, but that doesn't register on the ballot box. Makes you feel better, but you got to get out there and vote. That's democracy. Thanks.
Ms. Goshorn?
I just want to thank the student that came and spoke today. It's always good when the students come out to speak. I also just want to make sure that everyone is aware school's starting soon, and our staff has been hard at work. Thank you for all the work that you guys did to prepare everything. This was a very packed meeting since we couldn't meet last month, but I hope our building staff enjoy their last couple days of summer, and I personally can't wait for school to start, so thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Grannis?
I'm excited to begin the 2025-2026 school year. I hope our staff has found time this summer to recharge, reflect, and return with renewed purpose. Our students need your energy, your compassion, and your unwavering belief in their potential. I'm endlessly grateful for the dedication you bring to work each day. Together, we can improve academic excellence for all of our students and make this a truly extraordinary year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to start out the evening first by acknowledging again Ms. Karen Maxey, our board assistant, for her unwavering support and her tireless effort in pulling all of this together and keeping us all on the same page. I'd also like to thank the Calvert County Sheriff's Office for having representation here and keeping everybody safe, and also for not billing the school system. So appreciate that absorption. That's very nice of you guys. I'll be sure and write a note to the commissioners, let them know. I want to take a moment to thank Dr. Johnson and staff for maintaining continuity of our school system in the exit of our previous superintendent. As we enter into the next school year, I loved the student members' thought about having a town hall, sorry, Unfortunately, all 5 of us can't be in one place at once, otherwise this is what happens. So they like to limit us when we're in the public. But I think it would be wonderful. I also had some opportunity briefly to talk to Dr. Newsom, and he had some really great ideas about how we can get some information out to the public so that it is coming from the school system directly and not from someone's opinion on the Facebook or Instagram or other places. This summer went by way too fast, and it is unfortunate that the school year is already upon us. It felt like it was the fastest summer in the history. So good luck to all of those that are moving on and going to college, and to all of the students and their parents who are now either celebrating that their kids are going back to school, or the kids that are sad that they have to go back to school already. I wish everybody a really successful school year, and meeting adjourned. Thank you.